Sit down. If you want to stand. Okay, welcome to this meeting of Oxford City Council. Please note this meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Members, please make sure your phone is either turned off or silent, and you may leave and come back at any time, but please indicate to the clerk if leaving completely. Lord Mayor, Councillor Michael Rollo, is unfortunately unwell and has sent apologies for this meeting. This is why I'm here. I have asked Councillor Fry to be vice chair for this evening meeting. We will begin our meeting with a minute of silence to remind former councillors Mike Gotch and Mark Whittaker. 1 minute of silence. You can see. I will now invite members to provide tributes to the former Councillor Gotch. The first speaker will be Councillor Olin Org. Andre Gans, sorry.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor, colleagues. If I'd asked those present in our meeting in early 2021 in this chamber, which of the councillors alongside them was 81 years old and a great-great-grandfather, would you have identified the sprightly, cheerful, slightly argumentative figure sitting alongside me on these benches? Maybe not. Mike passed away on the 3rd of May, aged 84. He was born in Southend. As a boy, he earned himself a little bit of pocket money by acting as a beater at shooting parties hosted by the future Foreign Secretary, Lord Peter Carrington, before school as an 11-plus boy in Marlow and then a place at Oxford University. He met Francis, who went on to become a distinguished research immunologist and professor, now emeritus at Imperial College London, in 1962. Because Frances was under 21, Mike apparently had to ask her father's permission to propose marriage. Her father said no. So, typically for Mike, they were married the day after Frances' 21st birthday. They honeymooned here in Oxford, just round the corner in the Golden Cross Hotel. Throughout, he was politically active, involved with the founding of the STP in 1981, and spending a night in cells after a CND rally. Mike and Frances settled in Oxford to complete their studies and begin their careers with homes in Harefields, Firstone, and latterly Foxton Close off 5 Mile Drive. Mike could be seen jogging around the recreation ground until just a few months before his death, using the gate which opened from the fence in his garden. The house wasn't supposed to have a gate into the recreation ground, but it did, which somehow seems appropriate for Mike. He set up the architectural firm of Barnett, Bristow and Gotch, with offices in Banbury and Woodstock. 3 daughters followed. Mike and Frances were devoted to their huge family. When their daughter Lisa died, they would travel to Sussex every weekend without fail to look after their grandchildren. And their son-in-law, law recalls that Mike decided to stop being a child carer when he was a septuagenarian, although since Mike never seemed to grow old, the title doesn't really apply. There was no retirement for him. Instead of taking a well-earned rest, he decided to run for Oxford City Council. He wanted to make a difference. Mike served on this council from 2008 to 16, and then again from 2018 to 21. And Steve and I both had the enormous pleasure and privilege of counting him as our ward colleague. Mike never disagreed with you behind your back, because he so much enjoyed disagreeing with you to your face. Mike's funeral in May was a humanist celebration, which also seems appropriate, although he did once say that he thought he should describe himself as a Protestant, since he was always protesting about something. One thing's for sure, if there is an afterlife reserved for Lib Dem councillors, he's up there having a jolly good ding-dong with Jean. And certainly neither of them is going to back down anytime soon. Mike was a great servant of Oxford. He loved Oxford and had a keen vision for the place he called home for so long. Some of the last times I saw him were over a cup of tea at the bungalow in Foxton Close, hearing his latest scheme for improving and enhancing the city, usually illustrated with an elegant architectural drawing. This one even made the front page of the Oxford Mail, and it's described, sketch of Las Ramblas, Oxford, St Giles, from the north, NG, June 2020. We need more of that kind of free-thinking vision. Let's let that be his legacy. Thank you, Mike, for everything.
Now the second speaker will be Steve Goddard.
Thanks very much, my Lord Mayor. If I may, with your indulgence, just a couple of words to add to my colleagues about Mike. I must have first met Mike Gotch best part of 30 years ago, although he had in fact been active in Oxford politics well before that. He crops up in a fascinating PDF of Oxford City Council election results 1973 to 2012. I recommend it to everybody, as a Labour candidate in Whittaker Ward in 1976 and in Charlton Ward in 1979. I knew him after his journey to the Lib Dems via the SDP had taken place in the early 1990s. He was a stalwart of the local community in Whittaker, and in particular, a very well-regarded school governor and indeed chair of governors. It wasn't, as Andrew has said, until 2008 that he actually achieved election to the city for Whittaker Ward, so I make that a mere 34 years after his first attempt, 1932. He remained councillor for a number of years after that, including several after I was re-elected in 2014. Andrew's referred to Mike's prominence and achievements on the city, and I can only confirm that working with Mike was a fascinating, exhilarating, and occasionally frustrating experience. Often it would be necessary to consult him or confirm something with him by phone, and his peremptory bark, "My gosh!" when he answered the phone by way of greeting was highly characteristic and much imitated. It gave a sense of the man, efficient, succinct, and with a very slight hint of not suffering fools badly. I'm pleased that I decided to canvass Mike and Francis this April in the local election campaign. As people will have realised, Mike was by then very frail, but absolutely as sharp as a tack, and I spent substantially longer chatting to him than one should when one's on the campaign trail. A little bit of reminiscence, but also some interesting and perceptive conversation about the political scene and about prospects for the general election, whenever that might be. I very much regret that Mike didn't live to see the outcome of that election. He would have enjoyed it very much, and like Andrew, I remember him fondly as a hard-working, dedicated councillor and much missed colleague. If I may, Deputy Lord Mayor, a few words also about Mark Whittaker, who, as you mentioned, has also passed away in the last few weeks. Mark Whittaker was elected to the City Council in 2000 after several attempts previously as a councillor for that fascinating hybrid ward, Old Marston and Risinghurst, and bits of Sandhills and other places, which had in fact only 2 more years before being rationalised out of existence in the boundary changes enacted in time for the 2002 elections. Mark stood in those for one of the new wards but failed to be re-elected. So he was a councillor for only 2 years, but colleagues, and there are a few from that far back, may well remember him as a very active, articulate and participative councillor. More than that, Mark's contribution to the life of the city goes far beyond that relatively brief term in office. Colleagues will probably be aware that Mark, since his death, has been widely commemorated as the founding chair of Oxford Pride. He was a central and cherished member of the city's LGBTQ+ community, and he continued to work for Pride until his health prevented him from continuing with a prominent role. Despite by then being very poorly indeed, Mark was determined to take part in Pride this year, just last month. That's very much the measure of the man. In the face of long-term ill health, he remains stoic and good-humoured, and I'll remember him, as many people here will, as an instinctive and passionate liberal, a great community activist, and a very valued friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now is Councillor Alex Ollingworth.
Thank you very much. Steve has just stolen my best anecdote, because I didn't think anyone else, I should have thought of Steve, would burrow that far back into the election archives. The tribute I wanted to pay to Councillor Mike Gotch was as somebody who shares my possibly unhealthy interest in all things related to planning. And I think it is a measure of Mike's wisdom, his perception, and his ability to see through the most eloquent presentation by an applicant or by a council officer and see what really lay beneath it. Is that now this doesn't always happen when a party has majority control. But the party in majority control weren't just pleased, but absolutely delighted to nominate and make Mike Gotch the Vice Chair of the Planning Committee, and repeatedly re-elect him to that post where he served with considerable distinction. I was trying to find a quote which summed him up to me, and there were so many that I could have dug out. I'm sure the Oxford Mail always used to use Mike's pithy comments on planning applications, but it's one that I found towards the end of his career, when the new replacement for the Tinbergen building, which was a very difficult planning application, a very major one, was going through the planning committee. And it's quite short, it's not necessarily in the florid language he sometimes used, but he said, in the middle of a pandemic, we don't need reminding that good science at Oxford leads to amazing results. And I think that it's that practicality, that planning has a purpose, that architecture has a purpose. It's not just about the shape of the building, it's what goes on within it, and the people within it, that humanism that Andrew and Stephen have talked about, which I think is so important, and why I have very fond memories of Mike. Not every planning committee has been enjoyable, but every one with Mike Gotch on it was memorable and mostly enjoyable. So I'm very happy to join in these tributes to somebody who served this city very well.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be Councillor David Endwood.
Thank you, Chair. I've modelled my personal practice on three former councillors: Ruth Wilkinson, Craig Simmons and Mike. Ruth provided me with a model of fairness and humility, while Craig provided me with objectivity. Mike was unusual in that he treated everyone with equal measures of fairness, objectivity and a bucket load of humility. His soft, distinctive voice and his ability to bring a crowd to silence as we waited with anticipation for a measure of insight only Mike could deliver. It was a pleasure to have worked with you, Mike. I wish your family well, and you served this council fantastically. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker will be Councillor Malik.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I had the pleasure to meet both great councillors. First one, Mike Gotch. Mike Gotch, I've known him from 2008 onwards, being a member of the planning committee. I served with him at the planning. Like Alex said, I mean, the point he used to make and question very eloquent with the officers and the colleagues But the best thing about him was, no matter you can have political differences with him, but he was a true gentleman. So he will always greet you and talk to you and share his ideas. And one point we were discussing how to basically divert the traffic from the city centre, and he drew many maps which keep coming forward and backwards, and we had our own views, but it never went any further. Last time I saw him a couple of years ago, and he looked all right, and he was a true gentleman, that's all I can say. And rest in peace, Mike. Mark Whittaker, I met him in 2002 actually, picked him up in my cab from Carfax, and that time I was trying to get involved after the Iraq war, so anybody who was against the Labour I wanted to join, so I joined the Liberal Democrats. So I took him, so he had a few drinks and we were talking about, and he said, oh yeah, I won, but I'm not sure next time I'm going to win because the boundary change, etc. And he lived in my ward, he was one of my constituents in Southfield Park flats, always let me in to his flats to deliver the leaflets or a helping hand, and he will do it quite a few stairs for me. And I have seen him after quite a long time. Then a couple of times I saw him, he wasn't very well, we had a good chat. Very polite man, a gentleman. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I will now invite members to provide tributes to the former Councillor Whittaker. And the first speaker will be Councillor Steve Goddard. You have done, sorry. And the second is Councillor Mary Clarkson.
Thank you. Yes, very sadly, not many of us will remember Mark, because it is quite a long time since he served on this council. And he and I did overlap between 2000 and 2002. At the time, I represented the old ward of Marston, which included Northway, which was where Mark was born and brought up. And Mark represented Old Marston and Risinghurst, as Steve has said. So we did cover similar areas, and we often sort of chatted about those things. And I always found Mark to be thoughtful, direct and honest, and a very constructive councillor at a time when there were quite a lot of tensions, particularly between the different political groups. But Mark was someone who was honest and engaging and would very, very definitely want a conversation with people from whatever political background to make things happen. I remember some time ago, back then, when Mark told me that he was HIV positive, at a time when it wasn't as easy to be as honest about things like that as it is now. And as Steve has said, he went on to be a founding member of Oxford Pride, and I know that Oxford Pride and the whole LGBT community will miss him very, very much. And he's done a great deal for this city, not just as a councillor, but also much more widely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, members. We will now proceed, but yeah, I think he did, no? You want to, sorry, Councillor Malik. Yeah, this is what I thought. This is what I thought. Okay, thank you. Thank you, members. We will now proceed to this evening agenda. Please note that as the acting Lord Mayor, I have the casting vote on any tied vote this evening. I reserve the right to use this. Now we'll go to the apologize for absence, point 1. Can I request the committee and the member service manager to announce any apologies that have received ahead of this meeting?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So we've received apologies of absence from Councillors Latif, Ligo, Hunt, Mundy, Rowley and Gateman.
Okay. Can I ask members if any further apologies need to be noted? Okay. Item 2, members, do you have any declaration of interest relating to the business in today's agenda? Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Following advice from the Monitoring Officer, I'd like to declare an interest in motions 15A, 15C and 15E on the grounds that they all coincide with my responsibilities as a cabinet member of Oxford County Council. So I will be leaving the chamber and not taking part in those items.
Okay, noted. Now, Councillor Ed Turner.
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. So on the motion on Oxford United, I just want to place it on record that I am an FA match official, and in that capacity I sometimes referee Oxford United's youth and women's teams and receive money for so doing. Whether or not it's earned is a matter of judgment. But that applies for football clubs everywhere, and I have no specific relationship with Oxford United, so I don't think there's anything particularly to be clear, but I wanted to be transparent about it.
The officer. Emma.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. My advice would be that I don't think we've got an interest in the matter, but thank you for declaring it for transparency, and I see no problem in you taking part in the item.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Nigel Chapman.
Yeah, just for the sake of transparency, I'm proud to say I've been a season ticket holder of Oxford United for the last 20 years, but I have no peculiar interest in the club. In fact, I have to pay to attend, which can sometimes be a struggle. But I think it's fair that I should be able to take part in the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Members, if any subsequent interest become apparent, please raise it at the relevant item. We now come to the minute from the previous meetings. Do members approve the minute from the ordinary council meeting on Monday, 18th of March 2024, and the annual council meeting on Thursday, 16th May 2024? And is there a seconder? Okay, thank you. The minutes have been approved. We now come to item 4, announcements, and I have some announcements to do. First is the Deputy Lord Mayor, is myself, sorry. And I participated in 4 events. One was the Open Mosaic Indonesia Culture Exhibition on 18th of May in Bourne Square. It was a very good event in my perspective. It showed the culture of Indonesian. I also participated in a Carmen Burana fundraising dinner. It was also a very good event. And I participate in 2 events in my ward, celebrate the centenary of Littlemore Village Hall and the Littlemore Play Day. And is only that. Now, any announcements for the Sheriff?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, or Deputy Lord Mayor. I just wanted to say that I have invited here 2 pupils at Oxford Academy Year 10, Amia Cameron and Siobhan Allen, who are sitting at the end either side in the centre, and I discover that their class teacher is, I have to call her Miss Diggins, who's sitting right behind Amia, and they are here just to try and see local government at work, and they'll be spending the week at various events, sometimes with me, including going out. If some of you are going to the ODS Marsh Road visit, you will see them there as well. So you'll have a chance to chat to them during the interval. Thank you.
Well done. Now, announcements from the leader of the council.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I have a few. Firstly, just wanted to say very briefly that
I too was extremely sad to hear of the loss of both Councillors Mike Gotch and Mark Whittaker, both of whom I served with as well. I won't add to what have been some really eloquent tributes, but they were both very decent men, and I was privileged to serve alongside them. So just wanted to add that in. Slightly more cheerfully, I wanted to record that I had sent congratulations to our two MPs, on both of them on their resounding re-elections, on behalf of the Council, and to say that we look forward as a Council to continuing to work with them in the interest of the people of Oxford, and to deal with any inquiries that they had regarding the work of Oxford City Council. And also to seek regular meetings with them wherever possible. I'm hoping that now there are a few more Liberal Democrat MPs, then Layla won't be covering quite so many jobs, that she might have a little more capacity to meet with us, which I think has been an issue up until now. Because much as we have tried, it's kind of tended to be pretty tricky, I think. So that's I wanted to say. I also wanted to let people know two other things. I think people will be aware that we flew the England flag on the mast for the England team. Sadly, it wasn't enough to get them over the line yesterday. And just to let people know, it will be coming down, I think, sometime this week, probably tomorrow. But just wanted to draw people's attention to that. And then finally, and very seriously, just on the issue of Botley Road, it would be odd, I think, for me to let this meeting pass by without picking up on an issue that has been incredibly significant for the people of Oxford. So I wanted to let Council know that I have written to the new Secretary of State for Transport and also to Steve Reid to ask them to look into the matter. And to, in the interest of people of Oxford, to try and get Network Rail and Thames Water to work more closely together and to get some action happening quickly so that we can resolve this issue. I have copied that letter to Councillor Liz Leffman, and so it will be coming, I guess, roundabout to Councillor Gant in his other role. And also to our two local MPs. But this is obviously a really significant issue for the people of Oxford. It's devastating news to hear that the Botley Road will remain closed for even longer. And obviously we are also seeking urgent clarity over the issue of traffic filters and when they will be introduced in Oxford. And that is a matter for the county, so we will be seeking that further clarification from them as well. And that is it for my announcements. So, Deputy Lord Mayor, sorry.
Okay, thank you. And now announcements from the City Rector.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. Lovely to see everybody. I decided not to talk about the football, nor the tennis, nor the cricket, and instead I'm going from running and last Thursday. But before that, could I just say one of the things I love about this council, and I'm always humbled by it, is how you honour former councillors. I think that's just so good. If I may say, last Thursday someone else was honoured, Eric Liddell, who 100 years before had won the 400 metres in the Paris Olympics, 11th of July 1924, when I was a young man. And one or two of us may know that he never wanted to run that race. This was not his distance. 400 metres was not his skill. His skill was 100 metres, but he had learned a week or so before that the heats and the final were to be on a Sunday. And because he was a man of great principle, he felt he couldn't do that. He must have been so disappointed when he heard that the race was on a Sunday. He'd been working on this for years. This was his greatest gift, but he had to say no to that. So he went for something else, a second best gift, and he made history, and he won. Could I just say for all of us, sorry to sound a bit preachy, but this is what I tend to do, is there will be times when we are unable to use our bestest gifts, and that will be a disappointment to us. But who knows, if we're then able to use our second best gift, then great things may still happen. So like Eric Liddell, we should never stop running the race. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now move to item 5, which is public address and questions that relate to the matters for decisions at these meetings. No public address for this item were received ahead of the deadline. Now come to item 6, the recommendation from the Cabinet on the Leisure Investment Programme. Please note that Appendix 4 is exceptions, and if members wish to discuss the contents of this appendix, then Council will need to enter closed the section. Can I ask Councillor Chu Makong, Cabinet Member for the Health, Oxford, to present the report and move the recommendation?
Thanks you, Your Lord Mayor. Today I'm very happy and excited to present this report to you. Basically, it's a good news because our leisure services and community services, community centers are going to have a makeup. We did provide for 2 million in our budget for this work. Costs are now clear and the project fully costed, hence asking for a further 1.4 million. More Leisure will use these funds to significantly improve and refurbish our centres across the city, including at Ferry, Barton, The Lees and Inksey. This means brand new gym equipment and modernized facilities across the board, including cafes reopening, better changing rooms, and even fun inflatables at all our swimming pools. A whole new range of fitness options and classes are coming to suit a huge range of fitness levels and interests. Our free swimming offered to under 17 will be more fun and enjoyable now. But that's not all. Over the next 10 years, this loan will actually generate an impressive return of millions to the council. This means not only improved facilities for everyone in Oxford to access, but also a significant financial return to the council that can be reinvested into other vital services across the city. My colleague Ed Turner may wish to add more as a Cabinet Member for Finance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a seconder?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I think Deputy Lord Mayor Chevy's covered it. I think I will join in the debate with anything specifically on the finances, but I would commend to members' attention the confidential appendix, which we're not going to discuss unless we're in confidential session, but it sheds light on some things.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers for this item? Councillor Smolten.
Thank you. 3 quick questions for me. One, I note the reference to AI-powered lifeguarding equipment. Does that have any implications for the level of human supervision for swimming sessions? Number 2, the report sets out the loss of 1 squash court and half a sports hall. Is that list exhaustive in terms of the facilities that are replaced? And number 3, the Cabinet Member will be familiar with an ongoing situation where groups hiring the pool at Barton, and I would expect this is uniform across the fleet of leisure centres, are facing significant cost increases. The costs for those groups have more than doubled, though that has been delayed slightly after some intervention. In view of this, are you still confident that the contractor will act in our residents' best interests?
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who want to speak in this item? Okay. Can you check again? Councillor Lawrence Forwarder.
Thank you. Could I just clarify before I start that discussions about fusion are not in the reserved matters at all? I can go ahead. Yeah, I wanted to know whether if I ask a question about fusion, whether that is in the reserve business.
Officer.
It's not related to the report, so the report's obviously about the investment to be provided under the new provider. So I wouldn't say it's relevant to the item under consideration without knowing what the question is. I couldn't really advise as to whether it's something that could be answered in the public forum.
The question is related to the debt that Fusion owns.
No, that wouldn't be something that we could answer in the public forum. I'm sure if you want a briefing on that, then if you drop an email to myself and Nigel Kennedy, we can arrange for something to be provided to you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mali.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. Well, moving forward, congratulations sorting this contract out, but what I want assurance from the council and particularly the officer to keep eye on it. And previous few months when Fusion was looking for the contract or not to be given the contract, I had the pleasure to use the Ferry Hinksey leisure centre and that. And the cabinet and the stuff was falling apart. I continuously went and asked the officer at site, and because this stuff wasn't being dealt, so nobody looked after it. I mean, the people who were employed by Fusion, they looked basically speechless, said, we can't say anything, we keep reporting. Can the council make sure whenever the contract was coming to end, the service level do not drop? Because when the contractor see it coming to the end, 4, 5, 6 months, the service get dropped off. End of the day, it has our name on it. So we want people to have a good service. So it is basically a follow-up, so make sure our facility remains first class for the people to use. Can you assure that so that will not happen in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is HS Remain.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Just a quick one, just in response to Chewy saying that he anticipates that the council will receive millions in the next decade. Why is it we're funding the 1.4, and if you're so sure, or the operative is so sure that the millions are going to come in when things are so tight for us, maybe they should invest their own money and work it that way? Would that be a better place for the council to be at?
Thank you. The next speaker will be Councillor Ed Turner.
Thanks, Thiago. So a few different bits there which do pertain to my side. I mean, on Saj's point, which I think is very well made actually, and it's a fair comment, Saj. You may recall that as part of the budget process, we did actually agree an extra post to beef up the client side here. It's precisely, I think, to ensure that we can manage the contract properly. My sense is that the reason things weren't as they should have been, they really weren't. You know, the service we're getting from Fusion towards the end, which is relevant to this item because we're looking forward now at this investment, you know, wasn't as it should be, owed something probably to the end of the contract being closed, but frankly much more to the state of that company's finances nationally and the state of the whole leisure sector. So we've got a sort of perfect storm really of COVID on one hand, numbers going down, but also much greater competition from low-cost gyms and things like that. So essentially you've got organisations that had signed contracts at one point but then were not really able to deliver on them. This new contract's been signed at a different point in the market, and we will be able to monitor it, I think, more robustly. And also, interestingly, the operator that we're working with now was, I think, one of the only ones that didn't end up in a pickle as a result of COVID nationally. So I'm upbeat about that. And for what it's worth, what I hear is that there's been an immediate and positive impact in terms of the quality of users' experience since the switch of operator, which is something to celebrate. On the, maybe if I can deal with HS's question, which is fair, why are we funding it? Well, of course, these are our leisure centres, and we own them, and then we work in partnership with someone who runs them for us. And so, you know, the way this transaction works, broadly speaking, I think I'm comfortable saying this is in the public domain, but the specifics are tabled, is that we improve our asset, but then the person who runs our improved asset will take that into account in the payments that they make us. You know, another way of financing it would be that we transferred you know, the cost of maintenance to them, but then, you know, that would be a different contract to the one which we currently got, and I strongly suspect one which is less beneficial. So the way the model works, you know, is fair and is, I think, to our benefit. And of course, the residentials revert to us. So it will not be for the provider to sort of wander off with a spare swimming pool or play area or whatever they do. You know, Oxford people will retain the benefit.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chiu Mankan, do you want to answer any questions or additional answers, sorry?
Yes. First of all, I just want to add 2 points, add to its point. We have got a contract. We are not closing any of the leisure centres. We have kept our concessions and we are going to receive money from it. Thank you, Chris, for your 2 questions. On the AI part, this is going to be introduced in the lease. As you know, because of the uniqueness of the pool, that's what moving flows. So I'm not anticipating for any staff to lose any of the jobs, but AI is modern and something to look to in the future as we are going to learn more about this program. Spartacus, yes, obviously there's been a lot of conversations, as you know. This is quite a change in the programs as a result of the consultation of the user group, so it's just one Spartacus that's going to be lost. On the group fees, this is a little bit controversial, and obviously we have been in conversation with yourselves and one of the group involved, and obviously it is coming up on the questions, but to put it into context is all the fees are agreed with the council before the leisure provider increases organs or their proposals. We look at them and authorize them, but there are fees that are out of that group, and this involves the entire hire of the swimming pool or the centre. That's why we have advised the groups that, you know, we should have those conversations, and we have had conversation with other 3 groups that are involved, and actually we are reaching a milestone. And to be honest, more in this instance actually being listening. Coming out to Councillor Malik's point, just probably to add on what I already said, is we are going to closely monitor these facilities. I became a cabinet member, you know, before the previous provider. Before that, if you have followed my career, I was on the audit and governance that we picked out the issues for the previous provider. So I'm up to date with what we're doing in support with all the colleagues in here. To just add up, we have got a new member in the property who looks after the conditions of our legal services. So they keep an eye and look after the dilapidation and everything that, you know, the leisure centres can be up to standards. Also, now we're having at the moment weekly meetings with more, just to understand what is going on and to keep an eye. This is not an isolated work. I need every member in this chamber to help out. If there's any issue, you see, like Chris has been discussing this.
Councillor, can you summarize? Sorry.
All right.
Deputy Lord Mayor, with regard to one of the answers there, may I raise a point of personal explanation? which is that the question regarding AI isn't relating to will people lose jobs about that. It's relating to will the amount of supervision required for a pool session reduce as a result of the use of that system?
No.
Okay. I will put the decision to the vote. Please can I request that members keep their hands raised until I indicate otherwise. Those in favour? I think it's unanimous, sorry. Thank you. The recommendation has been approved. We now come to the recommendation from the Cabinet, rebuild cost assessment. Can Councillor Ed Turner, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Finance and Access Management, move the report and the committee recommendation?
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. Sometimes, Deputy Lord Mayor, sometimes there are things you do with enthusiasm, sometimes with reluctance. This is one which is pretty reluctant, to be honest. Essentially, just like you do when you do your home insurance, you have to provide an estimate of rebuild costs for the thing you're insuring. And you would normally, I think, do a desk-based exercise. There are tools that householders can use. We have a rather complicated portfolio of assets, both on the general fund side and the HRA side, ranging from sort of covered market through to any number of properties that we own commercially, community centres, then right the way through, the town hall, to council houses in many different sorts. And sadly as well, as people might picked up from the media in relation to motor insurance, there's been a bit of coverage of that, the insurance market has got significantly tighter in recent years. One way that manifests itself then is premiums go up. People might have experienced that. But the other thing which comes through is that then providers become more exacting in terms of the information that they require. And so it is that the provider of our insurance is being more demanding in terms of wanting accurate estimates of rebuild costs. There are bad things that can happen if we don't provide an accurate estimate. One is that we might be over-insuring ourselves, so we're saying it costs too much money to rebuild our property, and that would be a waste of public funds. But the other is that we under-insure ourselves, which would be difficult in the event of claims. The third one is that cover gets withdrawn, and I'm informed by officers that that is a realistic risk, a very realistic risk, if we don't make undertake this piece of work. Officers have investigated different ways of doing that, whether, for example, we might bring a team on board in-house, but in fact that would be less cost-effective and the skills are pretty niche. So instead we need to spend this money highlighted in the report on commissioning external work to do precisely that. We've provided, I think, as members in the run-up to this meeting, quite a lot of challenge on this. We've asked officers whether it's unique to Oxford. Having done some investigation, it turns out that it isn't. It's not had much of a profile, interestingly, in the specialist press, but other local authorities are finding exactly the same thing. Probably our insurance market is particularly tight, and that's probably because of the complexity and nature of our asset base, so that's not very helpful. But the situation is not unique, and others are facing exactly the same pressure. We have also asked about whether there'd be ways of kind of retaining the data, reducing the need to spend money in the future. Initially, the words painting the fourth bridge were used. In other words, we need to keep going back and updating our assessments. I think we will keep going back and try to reduce the ongoing commitment, because this isn't money which we want to be spending. That being said, really, it's one where, in spite of some quite heated discussions behind the scenes, there isn't a lot of option, and we do need to insure our assets. We looked at self-insurance. That's not an option for the nature and scale of the assets that we have, and we need to provide adequate rebuild costs. Therefore, I reluctantly and with a heavy heart commend the recommendations to Council.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Linda Smith, sorry.
Formally second.
Are there any other speakers for this item? Okay, no one. I will put the decision to the vote. Please, can I request that members keep their hands raised until I indicate otherwise? Those in favour? I think it's unanimous. Thank you. The recommendations have been approved. We now come to the next recommendation. Can Councillor Susan Brown, leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Partnership Working, introduce the report and move the recommendation?
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. So I feel like I've had this conversation with pretty much everybody individually in this chamber at some point or another, but we are finally at the final hurdle of getting the corporate strategy agreed, which is to bring it to council, which is quite appropriate because it's obviously a really important document informing all of our work over the next 4 years. It has been a lengthy process, which I think is a good thing. It's important as it is because obviously as a document that is going to inform all of our work over the next 4 years, it's really important that we get it right, and it's really important that we engage with lots of people to make sure that everyone has a chance to input into it. And I think you can see, as set out in the document, that we have done that. That has been really quite extensive engagement over a long period of time with a lot of residents in the city, a lot of different groups who have an interest in the work that we do, other bodies that we work with, and importantly, groups within this chamber as well. And I'd like to thank each and every person in this chamber who has contributed to it, whether it's through scrutiny, through your group meetings, or through previous discussions at Council and Cabinet. So thank you all for your contributions. I'd also like to pay tribute to the officers who, even more than I have spent many meetings talking through the purpose of this document. I mean, importantly, this is basically about how we make our city a better place to live. It's about reinforcing our priorities as a council, making sure that we have the affordable housing that we know that we need in our city, and that housing is of good quality. It's about making sure that our economy, which we know to be strong, is a fair economy, and that is working for everybody, so doing everything we can to make sure that everybody in our city has a chance to contribute and to participate in our city and its life, which, you know, takes us on to thriving communities. It's really important that we do everything we can as a city council to make sure that our communities are inclusive, that we tackle inequality, and that we make our city a great place to live. And part of that is, of course, our work on Zero Carbon Oxford, which we're extremely proud of. Great to be nominated as the country's greenest city for the 2nd year running. We're very proud of that. And the work that we have done on Zero Carbon Oxford, not least through the partnership which we set up after our Citizens' Assembly on climate change, is a big part of that. And then the underlying principles that are really important are that we are a well-run council. So we cannot deliver any of those other things without being a well-run council, without making sure that we are engineering in extra income to make up for the lack of government funding, and that is a very important way of making sure that we can deliver for the people of Oxford. So I don't think there is a great deal more to say at this stage. I feel like I have answered a lot of questions during the course of this process, but I'm very happy to answer any more questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Chu, do you want to speak? Okay. Are there any other speakers for this item? Okay. Councillor Mal.
So, in your own words, this is about making our city a better place to live. So, and thank you for the work that's been done on this. But it would be just really useful for clarity to understand why issues that are the sole and statutory responsibility of the City Council aren't necessarily mentioned in the outline of the strategy. So I'm thinking about environmental health or noise nuisance, which aren't getting a mention, and because it's our responsibility to provide these services to residents, and what my concerns are, will this have an implication for funding some of these services on which residents depend, because we're the ones who are supposed to be providing them. Thank you for clarification on that.
Thank you. Now the next speaker is Councillor Jarvis, and if someone wants to speak, can you hand hands, because I don't know if I catch all. Okay, okay, you, okay. Councillor Jarvis.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yeah, just very briefly on this, I just wanted, I've said this privately to Susan and also to officers, but I just wanted to reflect on what Councillor Brown said at the beginning around the nature of the process in which this document has been reached at, and I think it reflects this council at its best. I think it's been a genuinely constructive process that has sought to engage different stakeholders both within the council and outside of it. And you can see the threads of the different points of engagement bleeding through elements of the document. It's not a document that our group would have put forward as the single overarching strategy that we want to see, but there are elements of it that we broadly support, and so we're happy to support it today. But I just wanted to reiterate those comments that I think both officers and the Cabinet and Councillor Brown in particular have engaged constructively throughout the process, through the scrutiny, the formal scrutiny process, and also through the process of consultation. I think having that on the public record would be useful.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Chris Snowden.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. It might not come as a huge surprise to know I'll choose to abstain on this particular item. As always, there is a great deal to appreciate in there, and there is still that one elephant in the room, the core tension between our affordable homes goal, in which we seek to get on top of our highly exclusive housing market, and our economic growth goal, in which we threaten to pile on lots of housing demand and really drive up accommodation costs. We've been around this one a few times, but perhaps for the benefit of new members, can the leader assure the council the administration is cognizant of that tension and will take steps to address it?
Okay, thank you. The next is Councillor Osmia Dejabafari Marbini.
Thank you. In each of the sections there is the section on key measurements to assess progress are still being worked out. Obviously, that is really the key to all of this, is how do we actually measure how we're making any progress in any of the areas. Could you just lay out the brief outline of what will happen around how that happens and how we continue the actual engagement and consultation with stakeholders, because that's a really key part of it, and just deciding which of the measurements there are to really assess how we go forward.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Mary Clarkson. Sorry. No. I'm not sure if Councillor Susan Brown wants to respond.
Yep, I'm very happy to. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. So, I'll tell you what, I'll go backwards, why not? KPIs, which I think is what you're referring to, we would have liked to have brought two together, the KPIs and the council corporate strategy. Unfortunately, we didn't quite manage to align it in full, so there will be a separate paper with the KPIs, and when we've been talking about it in scrutiny and elsewhere, we have made that very clear. So you're right, it's really important, and we have had some discussion at scrutiny and elsewhere about what they might look like, not least because when we had our corporate peer review, we had a good discussion as part of that about trying to make sure that our council strategy was slimlined to some extent, that we were really focusing on the sort of top priorities of the authority, and that sitting underneath that, our KPIs were properly measurable and also quite high level KPIs. So there is a further piece of work to come on that. You haven't missed it. You haven't missed the opportunity to feed into that. It will be coming. I'm then going to skip back to Catherine Miles's point because I think it relates to that. And obviously we did have this discussion at Scrutiny, so you know, I'm happy to repeat what I said there, which is that this is not supposed to be a document listing every single service that we provide. It absolutely isn't. And obviously there are many services that we provide that don't necessarily are necessarily described in this document. This is about our core priorities as a council. And that doesn't mean to say that we haven't got many statutory and other services that we continue to provide and are proud to provide, and you know, which will make a contribution to the overall arching strategy of the council. I'd like to thank Councillor Jarvis for his kind comments, which he made at Scrutiny as well, and I'm really pleased to hear it, because we have tried very hard to make this a genuinely inclusive process, so it's pleasing to hear that. And then finally, on Councillor Smartin's point about economic growth and housing, I'm sure this is an argument that will run and run, but I mean, just to reiterate the points I feel like I've made 1,000 times before, we are an incredibly fast growing city. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Our economy is fast growing. It is not something we are doing, it is something that is happening to us in our city. And if we do not manage that growth, then it will be really uncontrolled, and it will not be to the advantage of the citizens of Oxford. So it is really important that we make sure that we plan as far as possible where economic growth happens in our city, where the housing goes, the transport links to it, and try and make sure that we are doing everything we can in the interest of the people of Oxford to make that economy that is fast growing an inclusive one for everybody, to make sure that we are providing affordable housing, but that we are focusing housing and economic activity in the right places. So economic activity is obviously best happening near transport hubs, so that people can get to it as easily as possible by public transport and other means. Spooky interventions from over there. So, okay. Something to do with the mysterious. Yes, don't touch that. Yes, I heard earlier dire warnings about that microphone. So yeah, please don't touch that. So anyway, I think I had answered the points that were being made.
Councillor Susan, try now to see.
To be honest, I think I finished Deputy Lord Mayor, so I slightly lost control of my thought after the spooky intervention, so I think I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. I will put the decision to the vote. No, we did. Sorry, we did. Sorry. I will put the decision to the vote. Please, can I request that members keep their hands raised until I indicate otherwise? Those in favour? Those against? And any abstention? Thank you. The recommendation has been approved. We now come to the next recommendation. Can Councillor Chiu Mukunj, Cabinet Member for Healthy Oxford, introduce the report and move the recommendation?
Thank you so much, the Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm happy to present this report to you, and in turn, I urge all the members in this chamber to support this paper so that we can approve the report to go back to the Secretary of State. We have come far. We are almost there. So I'll explain a little bit of the process here. So this is a follow-up report from the one this council approved last year in November. Once approved, it will go to the Secretary of State for consideration. After that, we will have another 28 days further consultation. Then the report will come back to this chamber for final approval. There's a lot in this paper, and it's quite technical, and we have been seeking legal guidance all through. So what it is all about, and probably I should talk about one bylaw that keeps on coming up, the lifting of the blanket ban on cycling in the parks, Bar 3, Ainsk Park, the track grounds, and Levi. I must make on record to this council that there is a consensus majority approval for this bylaw. We consulted widely, as you can see from the report, to a larger different park users, both in and outside Oxford. This resulted in more than 500 online responses. This excludes those responses we received via emails and letters. I consider this as one of the successful consultations that I've come across in this council. There's been more, but I think we did consult more widely. I want to take this opportunity of thanking our officers for their hard work, Labour Group for their support, Scrutiny for scrutinizing our work, and lastly, the members in the chamber for your support. I recommend this report to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, can we have a seconder? Councillor Susan Brown.
I formally second and reserve my right to speak, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Are there any other speakers for this item? Okay. Councillor Chris Smolden.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I shall support this in the end, as the vast majority of it is exactly as you say, good stuff worth doing. However, as councillors will be aware, I would ideally like to have amended this item to reflect my ward residents' wish that our parks paths should prioritise the pedestrian. Since I cannot do that for technical legal reasons, then I shall instead ask, once the decision was made, post-consultation, to pick and choose particular parks for pedestrian prioritisation, why did you not at that point go back to councillors, and if necessary the public, to find out which other ones ought to be so treated? These are, after all, bylaws that will stand for a considerable time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers for this item? Okay. Councillor David Edward.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting this report. However, I do have a few reservations. I would like to have seen our moorings in relation to boat moorings that are moored on the City Council sites to have a boat safety certificate. I think that would have been a step in the right direction. I also would like to have seen, with regards to tree climbing, if tree climbing could have had some sort of caveat where they were protected during the nesting season. Those are my only two reservations with the report. I'd like to have seen it go a bit further, but I will be supporting this document.
Thank you. The next is Councillor Malik.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yeah, we'll be supporting this. I just want to ask a question on the enforcement to Shui. Where is in the report says in the overview, adopt new bylaws to better deal with specific issues such as unauthorized use of drones, the lighting of fire, the skylight and interference with the light of drones, lighting and basically speeding e-scooter in the parks. So to be honest, in the parks I don't see any presence of the officer anyway, since used to have the parks rangers and so on turn up with their 4x4, but I haven't seen them for years now. So how are you going to enforce this? That's my question. Are you going to employ another staff, or are you going to remodel the existing staff so they are visible to enforce these issues? Or are you going to just rely on the public to complain and then you go back?
Councillor Susan Brown.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I just wanted to sort of say my piece now and do a bit of partial response to some of the debate, if I could. Just particularly on the issue of re-consultation on the consultation. I mean, I think this is one could be an endless consultation if every time that a suggestion was made during consultation, you then went out to reconsult on that particular bit of consultation. And I think, clearly there has to be a limit to where consultation ends. I'm aware that Councillor Henwood raised some of the other issues in previous discussions. I think there were some quite clear guidance given as to how that wasn't necessarily appropriate. But I also wanted to touch on the issue of enforcement, because one of the reasons that for making these changes in this bylaw is the difficulty of enforcement. It isn't really possible for the City Council to enforce against cycling in our parks, which is one of the reasons for removing the restriction. However, I would encourage people, if they do see people exhibiting antisocial behaviour in our parks, whether now or post these bylaws eventually being adopted, and this is only the first stage in that, to report it and to make sure that we can, if possible, take action. But I think this is about setting guidance for behaviour, and in particular potentially setting guidance for people who seek to hold events in parks, or who spend time there. And we have to be realistic about our ability to enforce it.
Councillor Ross-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make sure I use the right microphone. Okay, thank you. I'm just a bit puzzled by our leader's response with regard to monitoring of the new bylaw if it comes into action in our parks, as to what it's absolutely right that antisocial behaviour or misuse in the park of speed cycling or something like that, I guess, could be envisaged. What sort of action she would actually think of taking if that is reported? Would there be a change in the bylaw? Would there be notices put up? Would actually the council be actually considering installing cameras or something? I just want to know what sort of proportion response there would be if there are masses of complaints with regards to inappropriate cycling in the parks.
I want to ask if they have any further questions. No. Okay. No? It's okay. Councillor Susan Brown, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I'm being asked to speculate on something that hasn't happened, and I don't think that I can speculate on. But I think the idea that we'd be installing cameras in our parks is completely ridiculous. We couldn't possibly do that. So I think we have to, what we're trying to do with bylaws is set a standard of behaviour, and I would always encourage people to report anything that is antisocial through the proper procedures, and anything that is legal through the proper procedures. and then action can be taken appropriately depending on what the issue is under consideration. And I can't really say anything more based on an entirely speculative question at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor Chiwe Mongay.
Thanks, Rose, and thanks, Susan. I think Mary have answered other questions. Just a little to add to Susan. When we get a lot of complaints that are intelligence-led, then we'll send out our officers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will put the decision to the vote. Please, can I request that members keep their hands raised until I indicate otherwise. Those in favour? Okay. Those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. The recommendations have been approved. Now, we now come to the questions to the Cabinet minutes. May I remind the members there is a time limit of 15 minutes for this item. Do members have any questions for the minute held on 17 April 2024? Are there any other speakers for this item? Do the members have any questions for the minutes held on 12th of June 2024? Okay, Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Deputy Lord. Can we confirm, has there been any further consideration since this came up in scrutiny as to the distinction between C1 hotels and Class E general business when it comes to SIL? To be specific, the amendments to the SIL schedule significantly raised the rate of SIL due to Class E general businesses, but hotels were left alone at quite a low rate. Had we looked into at all the reasoning behind that, which I think was an open question when this last came up?
Thank you. Now, I don't know if someone want to respond to Chris.
I missed the very first part of the question.
It was in our reassessment of SIL rates, we have significantly raised the rates for Class E general businesses, but the rates for Class C1 hotels remains low, at the low rate that general business used to attract. So the question is, why is it that that distinction has been drawn?
I believe it is because of the land valuation now attached to business premises as opposed to hotel premises. So because the increase in that has been so great, it's now obvious that it is viable to have a business, to build a new business, and be able to contribute that much in SIL. So it was because they did viability assessments of all the different types of usage you could put land to, and it was considered that for the business use, it would be able to manage that amount of SIL.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers for this item? Okay, do the members have any questions for the minutes held on 10 of July 2024? No? Okay, good. Okay, the time running, and what I suggest is have a break now, and we'll do the second part, the questions to the cabinet members after. And we come back 7 o'clock. It's okay? For me, it's okay. What does mean we carry on, and of course try to finish the discussion a quarter to 7. Have a break, 15 minutes, and we start 7 o'clock with the. Okay? Okay, good.
Lord Mayor, I think that's a bit short. I'm sorry. I don't want to spend hours discussing how long the break should be, but could we compromise and have a sort of another 15 minutes now, and then have like a 25 minutes break? Yeah. I think some of us actually need to go out and buy some food, and they need to.
We now come to the questions on notice from members of the Council. I will begin with the questions for Councillor Brown, leader of the Council. Councillor Miles, do you have a supplementary to questions regarding the vision of zero commitment?
Yes, I do. So, thank you, Ida, for explaining about the partnership working that's already happening on Vision Zero. That's excellent to hear. My understanding is that we as a City Council are committed to Vision Zero, but please can you state in one word, does this Council formally commit to partnership working on Vision Zero to eliminate deaths and serious injuries on our roads, yes or no? Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Susan Brown.
I can say more than one word in response, which is yes, and we are waiting for the County Council to get back to us in order to progress it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sandelson, do you have a supplementary to your question regarding the peace initiative?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. My question is that we want to continue engaging in peaceful talks and understanding across all divides, and given that in previous council meetings we've had representatives from both Palestinian and British doctors coming to speak with us, members of the Palestinian community, I feel is it not possible to have two people who work closely together, indeed are good friends, and travel around the country and around the world, speaking together and in the name of peace?
I understand where this is coming from, and of course we absolutely share the concerns and the desire for peace. I'm just not convinced that a council meeting is the right forum for this. So, having a meeting, a public meeting, to hear these two people speaking would be really amazing and interesting, and I'm sure would be something that we could all welcome. But a sort of 3 minutes at the start of a council meeting, which is all we have granted to kind of anybody else speaking along these issues, just doesn't really feel that it would be sufficient. And if we were to make it a much longer period than that, then we would be eating into council business time and potentially making a very, very long meeting of it. So I just don't think this is the right forum for that kind of proposal. I think your proposal in general about having a public meeting is one that we could be supportive of.
Okay. Councillor Di Jafari Mardini, do you have a supplementary to regarding the action plan for reduction in child poverty?
No, thank you.
Councillor Do you have a supplementary regarding the 4 days work week motion? Now, questions for Councillor Turner, Cabinet Member for Finance and Asset Management. Councillor Malik, do you have a supplementary regarding the incentives to Westgate's business?
No, thanks for the answer.
Councillor Ross Jarvis, do you have a supplementary regarding lobbying efforts to end austerity policies?
No.
Now, I shall take the questions for Councillor Ralton, Cabinet Member for Zero Carbon Oxford. Councillor Ainwood, do you have a supplementary regarding pollution levels inside Z zones?
No.
Councillor Ainwood, do you have a supplementary regarding the City Council's NO2 target?
No.
Councillor Ainwood, do you have a supplementary regarding incomes and expenditures from the Z expansion?
No.
Councillor Modiman, do you have a supplementary regarding measures to reduce the air pollution in the city centre?
Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor, thank you. Given our commitment to reducing air pollution and congestion in the city, I'm really surprised at your answer that we're not able to spare any resource at all to investigate the idea of a pre-booking system at some of our city centre car parks and whether that would help reduce congestion. Can I just ask you to confirm that we really can't give any resource to looking into this at all?
So to be clear, most of the car parks in the city centre do not belong to the City Council. This is generally a very substantial piece of work that our commercial... I'm not even sure how it would be done. It can't just land on our commercial property team because we don't own most of it. Yes, I don't have much to add to this answer, actually. I think, work of this nature needs to be resourced from somewhere, and in order to resource it, we have to choose to not do something else. So I think, I stand by the response in this question.
Okay, next are questions for the Councillor Sharpman, Cabinet Member for Citizen Focus Service. Councillor Miles, do you have a supplementary questions regarding the corner market waste rubbish?
Yes, I do, thank you. I was really shocked when I walked through Cornmarket after going to see an event in the theatre in Oxford and just seeing the huge numbers of bin bags that are just piled high outside all of the premises on Cornmarket. It really affects the public amenity of the space for the nighttime economy. And so my question is, do we find it acceptable that these bin bags are piled high from 6 o'clock in the evening until the middle of the night, which can contribute to pest issues but also be unsightly? So are you willing to work together to find options to ensure and improve the public amenity space on Cornmarket whilst managing some of the waste issues? So can we work together and look at this together, please? Because it's not very sightly and it contributes to pest issues. Thank you.
Well, my response to that is along these lines. That first of all, the point about the 1800 hours is that most of those businesses, a lot of them, are closed by then, so they've got to put their stuff out by 1800 hours. And you can't put it out late because they're not actually able for business, if you think about it. Most of the collection of waste takes place in the morning, very early in the morning, whether it's by ODS's commercial services or by BRIFA or other people. It takes place between 6 o'clock and about 8:30 in the morning. So I can explore whether it is possible to do it in the evening, but I'd be very surprised whether it was commercially viable for ODS to do that, and I'd be very surprised if we could get any purchase from BRIFA and the other providers who we obviously don't control, for them to start having a special round to pick up commercial waste, say between 7, 8, 9 at night, when they normally do it in the morning.
Councillor Miles, do you have a supplementary questions regarding the waste management enforcement of the city centre food retail?
And given the amount of waste that is being produced by some of the retail premises, I'm thinking of the milkshake shops and what have you, even if it is recyclable, is there a way that we can work very directly with some of these to reduce the sheer volume of waste that they are producing, which is causing an impact on the public community space of our city?
Well, there are measures, as I said in my answer, available to us in relation to waste management. I mean, there are obligations we place upon businesses in the first place, which I've laid out. And obviously, if there are concerns about the enforcement of those standards, those trading standards, that's not our issue. That's the county's issue. So if you're aware of examples where you feel people are abusing their position, if you like, around the creation and volume of the type of waste they're doing, I suggest you encourage the reporting of that to the county council, because it's their job to police it with its trading standards with them.
You want to make an amendment, yes?
Yes. Okay. Sorry, before you get to the standard, do you have a supplementary? I thought I actually ought to give the correct answer to the question. An incorrect version has been listed, for which apologies. I should have noticed it before. This is not my wording and I did not approve it. So if it changes your supplementary, the actual answer is: the damage done to South Park as a result of the 2023 Roundtable fireworks display was unacceptable and cannot be repeated. For any future events in South Park, the Council, working with Oxford Preservation Trust and the Friends of South Park, will require a clear cancellation protocol to be in place, with agreed deadlines by which events will be cancelled if the ground conditions are so poor that going ahead with an event will damage the park.
Okay. Okay. As you notice, we are in the questions for Councillor Hollingworth, Cabinet Member for Business, Culture and Inclusive Economy. Councillor Powell, do you have a supplementary questions regarding the damage to the South Park following the 2023 fireworks display?
Yes, please, Deputy Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth, for the updated answer. It is very reassuring to hear the seriousness with which the damage to the park has been taken. My supplementary question is regarding basically vehicle management plans on South Park. During last year's firework display, a large part of the damage seems to have been caused by vehicles driving up and down the park during the event. So simply put, what plans are there to ensure more effective vehicle management during any subsequent firework displays?
There are proposals which are coming forward from the round table, which will do two things. One will significantly reduce the area in which vehicles operate, and two will use what are called in the trade tank tracks, that are those lightweight aluminium things which people who go to festivals will be familiar with, and instead of the kind of rubber mat tracking. Those will make the grass go yellow, but will protect it. So obviously that is a significant improvement on what's gone before. Now, those are proposals which are coming forward. The Council will, as I said in the answer to the first question, need to discuss with the OPT and with the Friends of South Park if that is an acceptable proposition. But just to be clear, my intention is that we achieve what has been achieved before, which is a fireworks display that people can enjoy without damage to the park, and I do not think that those two things are mutually incompatible.
Okay, thank you. Now I shall take the questions for Councillor Moncarne-Gay, Cabinet Member for Leisure and Park. Councillor Snowden, you have 3 questions on circle leisure and group bookings and are entitled to 3 supplementary questions. Can I have your first supplementary?
Good news, folks, just the one. So, obviously this all revolves around the rates that are being charged for hiring pools. I note that in the schedule of fees and charges that we agreed with the contractor, we did restrict what they can charge for group bookings in other contexts. We said what they can charge or whether we agree between ourselves what they can charge for hiring of a whole sports hall or part of a sports hall. But we did not, in the schedule of fees and charges, say anything about a group hire of a pool, and then it appears that that's a hole that has been found, and that's how we're ending up with groups complaining that they're seeing the sort of doubling or tripling of their costs. So, was not restricting that bit, was that a deliberate choice on our part, or was that merely an oversight?
Thank you, Councillor Smorton. It wasn't deliberate, and as I've said in the answers provided, if there's any particular group that is impacted, we first recommend they speak with more. If they're not satisfied, then they speak with us. You and I and other members have been discussing with one group that we think now we have reached a more favorable conclusion. So I would add on to say, if there's any other group, please discuss with more first, and then with us. We are more reasonable, we will look at the considerations and make recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker, do you have a supplementary question regarding the school swimming class size limits?
No, but I do reserve the right to come back to this in the autumn once the next school term has started, if there's actually no visible improvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Di Jafari Marbini, do you have a supplementary questions regarding reduction in free swimming sessions?
Yeah, I do. There were some exceptions made to the rules about the changes to under 17 swimming in the leagues for a particular community group with contacts with one of the Labour councillors, which I welcome. But I do think that this needs a lot more thought and work, because actually the areas of deprivation and lack of access to swimming for cost reasons, for example in the leagues and the areas that we do have a real issue with health inequalities, I do think there needs to be more availability of the under 17 free swimming at times that are really accessible for parents. And I don't think that it needs to be that, if you look at the 34 that you're talking about having a look at the website, it's spread across the swimming pools, but actually it's not as much of an issue in the ferry swimming pool, for example. So I do think that this needs some more thinking if we are going to actually have some more of our children from the areas that are poorly served.
Councillor, can you make your
So
question,
is it
please?
possible to have some more thought given to how we do that? Because I do think that that's a real change that's going to impact how many children actually access swimming, especially with the summer holidays coming up.
Thanks, Ordina. Yes, we will have a thought about this. And actually, when this was changed, we thought it's going to work. But actually, it's creating some problems. So we're going to review this and implement as necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Madiman, you have 3 questions on repairing to tumbling bay bathing space and are entitled to 3 supplementary questions. Can I have your first supplementary?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Just one. Will the Councillor accept my deep thanks and that of the Tumbling Bay Preservation Society for the change in looking at the Tumbling Bay and how it's going to be fixed?
Thank you.
We agreed, discuss this 20 minutes. Now we'll go to the break and we carry on after the public meetings questions, okay? Thank you very much. We now come to the public address and questions. A total of 45 minutes is allocated for this item. David, can you please bring in the first public speaker? Our first address is from Sarshila Bao. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to make your address.
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Oxford Pedestrians Association. My name is Sushila Dal and I'm chair, and we have been lobbying for pedestrians and wheelchair use as forms of urban transport since the mid-1990s. This is almost 30 years ago, and yet progress has been slow, despite pedestrians having been declared top of the road users hierarchy. We're good at policy making when it comes to pedestrians, but we're not good at action. We're all pedestrians, even if we only walk to our bike, car or bus. But to look at pavements, you would think that we were just smaller, thinner cars, as walking and wheelchair use are provided for as if we move at a uniform pace, usually in single file. But pedestrian space is public space, and pedestrians move at varying speeds, may need to hold hands or an arm, may want to talk to the people we're with without shouting over our shoulders. We need to pass people going more slowly than us and going in the other direction. There needs to be space for wheelchair users to pass one another in comfort and dignity. But pavements are usually and uniformly too narrow and obstructed, often legally, by car parking, e-scooter and cycle parking, posts and poles, A-boards, bins, overhanging vegetation, and signs for roadworks aimed at cars. Pavements are not level, but sloped at entrances to prioritise motorised vehicles. Crossings take a long time to respond and then give a short time to cross. Routes are often broken up and crossings usually indirect. Hythe Bridge Street, for example, the main station to city centre route, suffers from all of the above, and pedestrians are forced frequently onto the road. Whilst a recent survey of Oxford Pedestrians Association members showed that wheelchair users often cannot make it into town due to the challenges of getting there by wheelchair. Air pollution, noise and danger are everyday issues pedestrians put up with. So OXPA welcomes this motion, and I speak to support it. We need pavements 2 to 3 metres wide, level, unobstructed and clean. We need responsive crossings on desire lines raised to the level of the pavement, and we need pavement extensions across all side roads. Please support this motion for a future of happier and healthier urban walkers and wheelers in Oxford. Thank you.
Thank you for your address. Please stay in the chamber for a response from Councillor Brown.
Sorry, just trying to get my microphone to work. Thank you very much, Sheila, for your address. We absolutely agree that pedestrians and wheelchair users are the top of the road users hierarchy, and that more can be done to improve their experience of getting around Oxford. I think it's right that everybody wins if more people feel safe and comfortable walking more. And we widely acknowledge the need to reprioritise road space and have embedded this in council strategies, for instance our local plan and our city centre action plan. Your address highlights some of the real obstacles, both metaphorical and intangible, in the way of a good pedestrian experience. It's true that our city has predominantly narrow streets and therefore often exceedingly narrow pavements, and yes, the City Council has a role to play here. However, all of the responsibilities identified in Councillor Morris's motion prior to amendment come with significant costs. In the financial climate of the last decade or more, the Council has had decreasing budgets to install and manage things such as benches, water fountains, public toilets and wayfinding signage. So any additional investment has to be considered in the budget process. Unfortunately, we cannot commit to 2 to 3 metre pavements everywhere due to the lack of space, but we wholeheartedly agree that we need to make more space for active travel users and shift focus shift focus away from the car while still supporting public transport. And we have done a considerable amount of work with various different groups to make sure that their experience is considered as part of active travel and transport use in the city. We also shouldn't lose sight of the progress that is being made locally on this topic, despite the challenging financial context. The recently delivered Market Street pedestrian-friendly trial scheme, the commitment to a permanent improvement of the pedestrian experience of St Michael Street, the collaboration between our council and the County Council on the Central Oxygen Movement in Place framework, which will create a blueprint for improvements in how people move about and enjoy the city. There's a strong focus on the pedestrian experience in this project, and this includes looking to address the journey from the train station to the city centre along High Bridge Street as flagged in your address, which I agree needs work. And we should acknowledge the great work being done by the Oxford Pedestrian Association. Your collaboration with the City Council using money from a generous legacy donation will fund the supply, installation and maintenance of 15 additional benches in various locations across the city. These locations were proposed by your members and by members of the public in areas identified as having a shortage of public seating options, including bus stops that have no seating available. And that is particularly important for older members of the public and those with mobility issues. The service agreement contract is being finalised and we anticipate the start of installation in the autumn. So thank you very much for contributing to this motion. We look forward to working with you and others to improve the pedestrian experience for Oxford. Thank you.
Thank you. You can read the next speaker.
Public concern and disquiet have been publicly expressed following Cabinet Member Louise Upton's astonishing decision, revealed at last full council meeting, to use her public office to waive and not pursue BMW's £800,000 levy. Are Oxford City Councillors concerned at the pusillanimous public behaviour of Councillor Upton in creating a precedent by waiving BMW's £800,000 levy, a precedent and policy which is more galling considering BMW's £54 billion public valuation? Will Oxford City Council's elected councillors support Councillor Upton displaying the same consideration to Oxford's small and independent ethnic retailers and businesses on the Cowley Road, along with the publicans, whose local authority taxes and Oxford City Council support for anti-car policies are pushing a significant number into insolvency?
Thank you for your address. Please stay in the chamber for response from Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Mr. Martwell. So the Community Infrastructure Levy, CIL, is charged when planning permission is given for new buildings in Oxford. I would just like to point out actually that several of our surrounding district councils do not charge CIL at all. But since 2019, there has been a process for applicants to request an exemption from this levy. It's called the Discretionary Exceptional Circumstantial Relief. And the process to apply for that relief is open for any development that is eligible. The procedures to be followed when requesting this CIL exemption are laid out extensively in the CIL Regulations 2010 Part 6,
To be precise, section 55, paragraph 3c, part 2. If you're not familiar with the still regulation process, I can send you a link. Now, for context, BMW Oxford applied for permission to build an extension to their existing factory at Cowley in order to bring the production of the electric Mini to the UK. They also applied for and have received a substantial UK government grant of around £60 million to be directly invested into the development of that additional production line at Cowley. So, now I understand that not everyone follows all council meetings, so you may have been taken by surprise at the announcement at the last full council, but in fact that decision was made after consideration at the Cabinet meeting on March the 13th, and that was when the Head of Planning and Regulatory Services brought a paper about BMW's application to be granted this relief from the surcharge that was due on their recently permitted factory extension. The paper was also considered at the Scrutiny Committee, which took place before that on the 4th of March. So that was when the decision was actually made at the March 13th Cabinet meeting. To be eligible for that discretionary relief, BMW had to demonstrate that the development of that manufacturing of the additional car lines in that location was not economically viable. And they met that test we've had independently assessed viability reports. Now bear in mind that they also had to meet this kind of test in order to get the much larger government grant of 600 million. And again, they did that successfully. So, put simply, without this support from the public purse, the electric Mini would not be developed in Oxford, but would be built elsewhere in Europe instead, resulting in the loss of many jobs from Oxford. You may have been happy to risk losing those jobs from Oxford, but we were not. Just with regard to your final points about help to small businesses, I assume you're referring to whether the City Council can give discounts on business rates. So just a reminder, business rates are set nationally, not locally, so the City Council has no control over their level, nor does it have any discretion to offer business rates relief. But if businesses do feel they've been impacted by local issues, like roadworks or something, they can appeal to the government's valuation office agency. So I'd encourage anybody who feels they have been impacted by circumstances to do that. And just in addition, both officers and members have been working with businesses on Cowley Road in recent months and have had several sessions to explore local issues. I believe these meetings have been positive, and there is an agreement to set up a local traders association as a next step. But I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next address is from Paul Peros. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to make your address.
Good evening. My name is Paul Peros and I am Chairman of the Independent Supporters Trust, Oxvox, and I'm here to press the Council to support in any way it can the development of the community stadium at the Triangle and to help safeguard Oxfordshire's only professional sports team for generations to come. Oxford United have a 130-year history in this county. We're known the world over as a club that grew from humble beginnings in a Headington pub to reach the highest division in the most renowned and watched league in the world. A club that won the League Cup and that qualified to play against the elite of Europe. A club that turned Wembley yellow and blue once again this year and have been promoted to the Championship. The club is an integral part of the county's identity, but we face being homeless within years. The club, however, now have owners with the vision, resources and experience to develop not only a home for the club, but a hub for the whole county. One that reflects Oxfordshire's international standing and articulates our desire to be one of the greenest counties on the planet. We can move from an outdated, unsustainable stadium to a community hub that provides up to 15% net positive carbon gain by partnering with progressive local companies to pioneer the latest green technologies. We can move from a stadium with little public transport that relies on nearly 90% car usage to a stadium with superb public transport links with a projected car usage of as low as 10%. We can move from a three-sided stadium desperately in need of cripplingly expensive renovations and closed off to the community, to a stadium that will benefit the whole county. We can move from a stadium that is second furthest in all of the leagues from a train station to one that will be second nearest in all of the leagues. Oxford provided a petition that was signed by nearly 5,000 locals. Every local sports club connected to Stratfield Break actively supports this project, and their members alone number in the thousands. Asking how the club intends to safeguard the green belt, protect the environment and ensure traffic and parking are mitigated is completely understandable. These questions are being answered in planning, and the club is laying out its vision to revitalise an unloved and contaminated scrubland. The local community deserves the chance to see this project undertaken that will provide infrastructure, jobs and vitality to the area. A community hub that will not only free up brownfield space elsewhere in the county for much needed housing, but would form part of a strengthened green belt around Killington. The club have committed this vision to public scrutiny so that an informed decision can be made. The sea of happy faces filling the centre of Oxford for the victory parade that came to this very building gave witness to how many people care about this club. Our world-renowned city prides itself on being at the forefront of technology, innovation and green thinking. This project offers the chance to reflect and advance those principles and make a positive contribution to the whole county. A chance to provide young people with both improved facilities and positive inspiration, and the whole community a much needed boost. We cannot let the vocal minority rob us of this chance.
Thank you for your address. Please stay in the chamber for a response from Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much. We have got a motion on the agenda in a bit, which I'd like you to stay for, and certainly we are very committed to an inspiring future for Oxford United, and we were delighted to welcome the team to a parade here in our city. It was an emotional evening for all of us, I think. We want to see more occasions like that, and we want to see a secure future for the club. I think it's really important, and ideally kind of found and community-based, and with ownership of the stadium really clear and in the club's hands rather than elsewhere. And so yes, thank you very much for your press. We very much support what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. David, can you please bring the next public speaker? The next public speaker is from Shaka Artwell. Welcome. You have 5 minutes to make your address.
Glyphosate harmful impact on human health is recognised by many judicial jurisdictions of the Western world, including the World Health Organization. For this reason, I am addressing Oxford City Councillors once again, as I believe within a decade, when our youth are suffering from various forms of carcinohematomia, which the source will be traced to Oxford City Council's wanton spraying, even during the winter months, of this herbicide called glyphosate. A University of Washington review of numerous studies determined that glyphosate exposure may increase the risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma by 41%. A similar scenario occurred with the recent infected blood scandal, whereby patients, many of whom were children, were injected with imported blood products from the US, contaminated with hepatitis and HIV, which had been taken from high-risk drug users and sexual minorities. Secondly, glyphosate has the quality of being toxic long after its application at the stem of Oxford's wildflowers. This tragic reality is compounded by the fact that Oxford is in a valley which acts as a funnel for glyphosate and pesticide runoffs from our farms into the human drinking water. This combined cocktail of herbicides and pesticides from field runoff, together with ODS's year-round spraying of glyphosate, needs to be given greater attention than air quality concerns. Once again, I am asking and calling on the elected Oxford City Councillors to place a moratorium on the spraying of glyphosate within Oxford by ODS.
Thank you for your address. Please stay in the chamber for a response from Councillor Chapman.
Mr. Hartwell, thank you very much for your address. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, as Cabinet Member for Citizen Folk Services, I commissioned a comprehensive review of the use of glyphosate-based weed killers by ODS. ODS carries out the bulk of parks, open spaces and paved services maintenance on behalf of the council in the city. The review looked at the regulatory position, how the weed killer was used in Oxford, and the cost and effectiveness of alternative weed killer methods being trialled by other councils in England. The review found that significant care was taken in the way glyphosate is used by ODS in Oxford to minimise negative impacts on wider biodiversity. It was being applied by staff wearing PPE on hard paved areas and edges of tennis courts, targeting individual weeds in a precise way, not in a wanton and careless way that your public address alleges. It also found that all of the alternative weed treatments had a higher cost to apply them, and none had demonstrated a level of effectiveness of glyphosate. The use of acetic acid, for instance, created new risks to insect population and to humans. The study discovered that some local authorities, which had trialled alternatives, had decided to return to using glyphosate-based weed killers as the best and most effective option to fight weeds in their areas. The officer recommendation which the Cabinet accepted was to continue the tightly controlled application of glyphosate to tackle weed penetration of paved surfaces and invasive species such as Japanese knotweed. This is in line with current DEFRA and Environment Agency guidance. It is also interesting to note that the European Parliament rejected the EU Commission's proposal to ban the use of glyphosate-based weed killers in October 2023. So glyphosate remains approved for use across the EU. We will keep the use of glyphosate under periodic review, as herbicide manufacturers are working to improve the effectiveness of glyphosate alternatives, and monitor the regulatory environment closely, as this could change at a future point.
Thank you. The next public speaker is or was Ashley Smith. Is not have this evening, so the response to his address will be published on the website as part of the minute for this meeting. Can you bring the final public speaker? Our final question is by Dan Glanzenbrook.
Yeah.
Glazebrook?
Glazebrook. Yeah.
Glazebrook. Okay, sorry.
It's not a question though, it's an address.
Okay.
No.
Welcome, and you have 5 minutes to ask your address.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you on the controversial Oxbends River Bridge scheme. For those of you who don't know, the bridge is being proposed to cross the River Thames from Grandpont Nature Reserve to Oxbends Meadow, two sites already linked by an excellent bridge, less than 2 minutes walk from the site of the proposed new one. It would almost completely destroy the only wooded copse on the main path running through the nature reserve and completely transform the current rural and tranquil feel of the area. Not a single residents group in Grandpont has been consulted about the scheme, not even the official residents association of the large retirement home right on the doorstep of the nature reserve. It's scheduled to cost over £10 million of public money from a fund intended to alleviate the housing crisis. Before I go into our arguments against the bridge, I just want to read you something written by my 83-year-old mother, who has lived in Grandpont for over 50 years. She says the issue of neighbouring amenity was cursorily referred to in the planning statement, but only insofar as it related to neighbouring properties. What was completely left out was the impact on us, the local residents, the people who actually use and love Granpont Nature Park. Oh no, I revised it in response to the council put out a statement today. All right, okay, all right then. Let me get that one up. Brilliant, nice one. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Okay, so yeah, well, we believe the reason I changed it in part is because I submitted it kind of a last minute, and yeah, this was a previous address, but we believe the granting of planning permission to the project, which was passed by a very slim margin a couple of months ago, to be unlawful. We're actually planning to bring a judicial review that we're confident will prove this. I'm going to email you all the documents outlining our case, but some of the reasons include, number one, the failure to conduct the legally required environmental impact assessment due to the mischaracterization of the bridge as a standalone development. Number two, the failure to recognise and protect the intrinsic character and beauty of the woodland scheduled for destruction in the nature park, the only section of woodland, as I said, on the main path through the park, and urbanisation of the park that will come about in breach of National Policy Framework 15. Number three, the failure to conduct a lifelong carbon assessment of the bridge as required by Local Plan Policy RE1. Number four, the failure to conduct, consult with a single residence group in Granpont, as I mentioned, which we believe is actually in breach of the public sector duty under the Equality Act due to the disproportionate impact on the elderly. Number five, the impossibility of a safe route to the bridge due to adjacent flooding on the site under the existing railway bridge near the scheme. And we believe the use of money from the housing and growth deal for the bridge to be an abuse of this fund for two reasons. Firstly, the deal, in its own words, is supposed to ensure that people can live in affordable homes. And this specific part of the growth deal being used for the bridge is from a pot designated for, quote, infrastructure to unlock key housing sites. Yet the infrastructure the bridge will supposedly unlock is not a key housing site. It's a new Oxford University Science and Business Park proposed for Oseney Mead with a tiny housing allocation of just 247 homes, according to the local plan. The 4,000 workers expected to be brought into the development will exacerbate pressure on the Oxford housing market, not relieve it, and the net effect will be to make housing in the city less, not more affordable. Secondly, the council's own planning officers stated repeatedly at the Planning Review Committee on April 18th that the bridge is not required by the Oseney Mead development. In any case, if this is the case, it can't also be argued the bridge is needed to unlock the Oseney Mead development. And there's so many other uses this money could be put to. The A40 by Barton Park's crying out for a cycle and pedestrian bridge, which would actually benefit local people rather than harm them. Number seven, council planning officers made a number of untrue statements in the planning committee. Firstly, the officers' report claimed that Granpont Nature Park's an area of change in the local plan, when the own policies map shows clearly it's not. This had the effect of convincing councillors the plan had a democratic mandate it did not actually have. Secondly, the officers' report claims that a new bridge in this location was mandated by the local plan. In fact, nowhere in that plan is there any reference to a new bridge being needed between Granpont Nature Park and Oxpen's Meadow, for the obvious reason that such a bridge already exists. Rather, the local plan sets out there should be a new connection between Oseney Mead and the forthcoming Oxpen's development. The Oxpen's River Bridge, however, would not connect Oseney and Oxpen's, both of which are private commercial developments on private land, but would instead use publicly owned green space adjacent to each of these sites for the bridge. Thirdly, in the Planning Review Committee, councillors were wrongly informed that improving the Gasworks Bridge would not be any cheaper than building the Oxpen's River Bridge, and were misinformed as to the conclusions of the viability study that was conducted on improving that bridge. Fourthly, planning officers wrongly informed committee members they were not allowed to meet with local residents opposed to the bridge, as this was supposedly constitute lobbying. And fifthly, council officers claimed they did not need a forestry commission licence to clear fell the area without planning permission, which in fact they did. And the forestry commission came and upheld our complaint on that issue. So I'm going to email you the full details tonight or tomorrow. We very much welcome your support in this campaign. It's never too late to reverse a bad decision, and that money is desperately needed for what it's intended for, in other parts of the city.
Thank you for your address. Please stay in the chamber for a response from Councillor Up.
Thank you, Mr. Daybrook, thank you. Just to remind you that both the Oxford City Planning Committee and the Planning Review Committee resolved to grant planning permission following consideration of all of the evidence, having regard to all representations received, and after considering all material planning considerations. The planning permission has now been issued, and it will be inappropriate for me to comment further, given that you've implied the possibility that legal proceedings might be brought against the council. However, I understand that the leader has something to add to this.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Mr. Daybrook, you intimated earlier that we have issued a statement today about the Oxford River Bridge, trying to put in the public record some of the facts around the bridge and why we believe it to be important. The bridge will improve the choice of routes for people accessing the area now and in the future. It will deliver a net biodiversity gain. In bringing the scheme forward, officers have followed the proper process in making the planning application for the bridge, which my colleague, Councillor Upton, has just acknowledged. Options for the bridge's location were explored before the proposed location was put forward as the best location, and this was decided to be the best location. Importantly, because I think there's been some misinformation about this, the gross deal funds being used to deliver the bridge is an appropriate use of this grant, and it is mainly funded by the Oxfordshire Housing and Growth Deal. And finally, the proposals have been designed to ensure that the bridge will improve access during the floods, not worsen it. I've given just a sort of walled highlights from the statement that is now available on the council website, so I don't want to take up too much of council's time at this point, but I would urge people to go and read the statement in full, because it does, I believe, give a good representation of the facts relating to this proposed bridge.
Thank you. That is the end of the public address and questions. Now we'll carry on with the questions on notice from members of the council. The next are questions for Councillor Linda Smith, Cabinet Member for Housing and Communities. Councillor Fueder, do you have a supplementary regarding community centre costs?
Yes, I do. Could I ask the Cabinet Member, does she have an end date for the vision, which she mentions in terms of a break-even date for the Rosehill Community Centre?
No, I don't have a specific date for that yet.
An estimate?
I'm happy to write to you. Obviously, it's something, there's a communities review which is going on at the moment and will be concluded towards the end of this year, and there'll be relevant decisions in the council budgets, and I look forward to your support when it comes to that.
Thank you.
Councillor Jafari Marbini, do you have 5 questions? Do you have any supplementary questions?
Yes, I do, thank you. Thank you for the answer. Our residents feel abandoned by the housing associations that we work in partnership with. They feel ignored and abandoned because actually the process that you have outlined is very, very difficult to navigate. And for most people who are working multiple jobs, who've got caring responsibilities, it really is impossible to do that. So we're working in partnership with the housing associations. They've got more contracts with us, whilst the current tenants and residents are really suffering in conditions that some of which are really, really concerning. Can you please highlight what more the council could do to tackle this and the state of the current housing association homes that people are actually sometimes paying service charge for as well? Thank you.
Well, you're in a very good position as a local ward councillor to assist them, and tabling questions like this at full council probably isn't the most efficient way to do your casework. We've set out the processes there. If there are hazards in housing association homes, people should complain first of all to their landlord, and if they are not satisfied, if the issue is not resolved, then the council has the residential regulation team here, which has statutory powers to demand the landlords, including housing associations, make improvements. That is the path open to them, and so you should suggest tenants make use of that path or use it yourself in order to deal with those kind of issues. When it comes to other things which are not hazards, such as cleanliness, housing associations are governed by the social housing regulator the same way that we are as a landlord. And that's where you should direct them to complain. And again, you'd be well placed to help them, or you might want to send them to one of our well-funded advice centres, such as the Agnes Smith Advice Centre on the Rees, in order to get assistance should they need it.
Okay, thank you. Next are questions for Councillor Upton, Cabinet Member for Health and Healthier Communities. Councillor Miles, do you have a... I'm sorry?
Question LS7.
I don't have here, but you wanted to do some other questions, Councillor?
I want to...
You can do it.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Could I just ask the Cabinet Member to clarify, when it says the team are prioritising those applications in greatest housing need and have cleared the backlog for Band 1 and Band 2, I've had representations from ward residents that they're being told that there's 4 to 6 month delay before any application is even looked at. So I'm a little bit confused as to how the team can prioritise applications if they're not looking at them for 4 to 6 months. Could you clarify that, please?
Yeah, I mean, as I've outlined in the reply, this is an area where our performance hasn't been good enough recently, but we're taking steps to address that. I'm not aware that it should take 4 to 6 months at the moment, particularly now we've moved to the online system. So if you've got cases like that, please let me know about them, and I'd be happy to escalate the matter and make sure that they're dealt with appropriately.
Okay, I think now the next are questions for Councillor Upton, Cabinet Member for Health and Healthier Community. Councillor Miles, do you have a supplementary regarding enforcement actions, single-use plastic for street trading on Bottle Road?
Thank you very much. From earlier questions to Council, my understanding was the policy of single-use plastic or ban on that for street trading was going to be implemented straight away, and that there wasn't going to be this grace period for traders. Based on earlier questions to Council as well, I understood that licensing officers were starting to make enforcement visits. So it's surprising now that there has not been any enforcement action taken since an earlier question that was asked around that. So I'd just like some clarification. Since our policy on single-use plastics and street trading came in, I think, last September. Could you clarify that, please?
I'll try. I don't think the earlier questions were to me, but maybe they were. But okay. Anyway, so we did agree that they could use up existing stocks, I guess, rather than just throw those away immediately. And I think after that, then our enforcement officers always take a balanced approach about trying to engage and educate first. So that's what they have been doing, rather than going heavy-handedly with enforcement. But I'm informed that actually for enforcement, it should now be, it's the trading standard people at the county, not our officers, who would take that action. So if you're seeing anybody using single-use plastic still, then we should be reporting them to trading standards at the county council.
Councillor Smolden, do you have a supplementary question regarding School Street signage?
No, Lord Mayor, thank you very much for your support. I shall be preparing a petition and look forward to your fulsome backing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jarvis. Okay. Councillor Jafari Marbini, do you have a supplementary regarding the lack of compliance with traffic management plan at Spindleberry Close?
Yes, please. Is there a timeline to do with the Kassam Stadium and when the permits might be forthcoming? We're getting a lot of complaints about this. Thank you.
I'll find out. I don't know what the timeline is, but I'll find out, because I appreciate that if it's annoying, if they can find a good solution like this, and sounds like it really would be, then the sooner the better. I'll find out for you. I'm being informed by local councillors that it has actually already been implemented. That people are already starting to park around into trailers. So hopefully the situation will be improving.
Councillor Kier, do you have a supplementary question regarding the Oxford 10 views cones? The next, Councillor Roll, bike parking available in the city? Yeah, okay, we finished the questions, what is good. Now the next is, we now come to the item 13A, the Oxford Strategy Partnership Report. Can Councillor Susan Brown, leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Partnership Working, introduce the report?
I had, of course, prepared a half-hour speech, but in view of the time, I'm proposing to formally move this report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ross-Smith.
Thank you. I believe it will not be surprised. It's a comment and a question. We're recognised as a fair trade city, and yet we have only one fair trade shop trading in the city, actually, in Headington. I just wondered if your partnership would be looking to support, possibly in the covered market where there's an empty shop that's been still up TIC, as I've mentioned before, possibly allowing a fair trade pop-up to happen perhaps in the months running up to the Christmas period, if it is still available at a low or reasonable rate.
Sorry? Sorry. I mean, I can't make any promises about renting out of covered market premises through sort of negotiations in council. Obviously, we are supporters of fair trade. We are a fair trade city. It was a great shame that the church fair trade shop in Cool Market closed. Sorry to see it go. I'm sure if an approach is made to the City Council, to the covered market, about a letting of property from an organisation which can sell fair trade products, it will be looked at, and all things being equal, I'm sure it will be favourable. But as I said, I'm not aware of any specific proposal that's come forward at the moment, and I can't do lettings of shops in the covered market by council questions.
No, thank you for your reassuring answer.
Okay, members, can we note the report? Thank you, the report has been noted. Now, we come to the item 13p, the Oxford Health and Wellbeing Health Improvement Board report. Can Councillor Shiryu, Cabinet Member for Healthy Oxford, introduce the report?
Thank you, your Deputy Lord Mayor. This report is just there to note of the wonderful work that we are doing at the Council to our citizens. So I therefore move the report. Thank you.
Okay. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Okay. Sorry. Members, can we note the report? Okay. Thank you. The report is noted. Now, we come to the item 14, the Annual Scrutiny Committee report. Can Councillor Catherine Miles, Chair of the Scrutiny Committee, introduce the report?
I'd like to first of all thank Councillor Pegg for chairing the Scrutiny Committee last year and introducing this report on behalf of Councillor Pegg, who is now, I think, in London and missed, I think, in this chamber. Lots of scrutiny activity happened in the last municipal year, which culminated in submission of 142 recommendations to Cabinet across multiple scrutiny committees, the main committee, the Climate and Environment panel, and the Finance and Performance panel, and also the Housing and Homelessness panel. Of these, Cabinet agreed 100, agreed 12 in part, and didn't agree to 17. There were also some responses which were not applicable, as it determined the recommendation was already established practice, and there were a few that were remaining 12 recommendations that weren't explicitly agreed or otherwise, and only a written commentary was provided. What I've been asked to say today is that the previous Scrutiny Committee, and I wasn't a part of that, but I'm speaking to convey their remarks, is they wish to place on record their disappointment that some Cabinet responses to their recommendations were not always in line with the thrust of their recommendations. And so that concern, I think, needs to be noted. And the Scrutiny felt that the responses were not provided in line with the intended spirit of recommendations. Now, Scrutiny recognises it can't require Cabinet to respond in a certain way, and so, but they do want to note from last year's experience that there is an expectation that Cabinet engages constructively with the Scrutiny going forward, and hopes to see that going into this municipal year. With this in mind, regardless, we just want to, I want to convey on behalf of last year's chair, thanks to the committee and panel members for their contributions to scrutiny, and also to the Cabinet members and officers for preparing all their reports and attending the meetings. As chair for this municipal year, I look forward to building on the previous work and working effectively and meaningfully on scrutiny in the coming year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, can we, no, do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Ed Turner, I think, was the first.
Yeah, Susan may want to add on it, but I mean, just as a reflection as a Cabinet member on that, I certainly try and take the opportunity, sometimes frames are quite short, but talk through with officers where scrutiny was coming from and making a recommendation, how we can respond positively. And if in doubt, we try to err on the side of being positive. Sometimes things can't completely be done, but we'll try and find something useful to say, unless there's just a point of disagreement. What tends to happen is that we publish in advance the responses, and so by the time someone's at scrutiny to present something on behalf of, at Cabinet to present something on behalf of scrutiny, you know what the response is going to be. And I think, you know, if there's a concern, particularly if, you know, there's a feeling that Cabinet's got the wrong end of the stick or is not engaging with this sort of spirit of recommendation, I think that's probably a good moment to put it on record. As I say, there will be times where, you know, there's something where you just have a difference of views, and that's okay, and then that's out in the open. But it sounds to me like the question isn't actually getting at that, where there's a disagreement. It's more where perhaps the communication isn't as it should be. I think let's just be open about it and then very bring it to people's attention at the time, because genuinely, if you'd asked me, through my experience as, say, Cabinet member engaging with Scrutiny, how things had been and what you were going to say in the report, I wouldn't have seen that one coming, and I think that's a shame.
Thank you. Councillor Susan Brown.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I have to say, rather along the same lines, I'm genuinely quite surprised by that remark. My experience is that when Scrutiny make recommendations, both present at Scrutiny committees that try and engage with those recommendations and try and work with Scrutiny to come up with good recommendations that we can adopt, and then to adopt them as far as possible. As I said, there may occasionally be points of disagreement where we can't reach agreement, but I generally like to make sure that those are dealt with by giving a clear explanation of why we can't agree those particular recommendations. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised by those comments and disappointed, if I'm honest, because I had hoped, indeed, we've had some discussion about this earlier in the chamber tonight, that we were working pretty well together as the Cabinet and Scrutiny. I think if you look at the way in which the number of recommendations that we do agree with and adopt as a council, I think it will probably compare pretty well to many other councils. And I think, generally speaking, we do work well together. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay, thank you. Members, can we note the report? Okay, thank you. Now, come to the item 14A, the Scrutiny Committee Update Report. Can Councillor Catherine Miles, Chair of the Scrutiny Committee, introduce the report?
Thank you. So I, as mentioned earlier, am now the Scrutiny Chair for this municipal year, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how Scrutiny works in the City Council compared to the role I had as a Scrutiny Chair of Gotch Scrutiny. You don't like to listen to someone's cursed me. Okay. I was not on Scrutiny last year, so just this is an update to the activity since the 1st of March 2024 till the 30th of June 2024. So it actually spans the remainder of the last municipal year since the previous update to Council and the beginning of this municipal year. So of the last municipal year, Scrutiny Committee met twice. The Housing and Homelessness Panel and Climate Environment Panel and Finance Performance Panel met once each. And also the Company Scrutiny Panel joined one meeting of the shareholder and joint venture group, because they were combined previously. And you can find the details of those reports in your meeting pack. At the beginning of this municipal year, up until the 30th of June, we've had one scrutiny meeting and the Climate and Environment Panel has also met. So I was to chair at this first scrutiny meeting, and we've got the Deputy Lord Mayor was elected to the Vice Chair. We agreed at the first scrutiny meeting the operating principles for this coming year, which are appended in Part 8 of the Council's Constitution, if you're interested in reviewing them. Things to note is the committee re-established the Climate and Environment Panel and the Finance and Performance Panel and the Housing and Homelessness Panel and the Budget Review Group. I appointed members and chairs for these. The scope of the Budget Review Group will be agreed in time. The remit, though, of the Finance and Performance Panel was extended, and this is important to note because it includes scrutiny of executive decisions made in relation to the Council's companies, and this is effectively replacing the previous company scrutiny panel.
Now, these revised arrangements are intended to ensure proper, robust and compliant scrutiny arrangements for the scrutiny of the shareholder function. And if you do have any feedback on this over the coming months, please do pass that on to the scrutiny officer. You can find more details of the other reports in your pack. So at this point, I'd just like to welcome all of the scrutiny members, looking forward to working with you coming forward in this year, and also to the cabinet members and working constructively with you and officers and engaging with the scrutiny activity in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Members, can we note the report? Okay, thank you. The report has been noted. Now we are going for item 15, motions and notice. Please note that this item has a limit of 60 minutes, what does mean is 1 hour. The first motion is about Oxford United Stadium. And Councillor Clarkson, could you please move your motion?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And can I start just by clarifying to say that the site we're talking about is in fact the Triangle and not Stratfield Break. And I think that was clarified with officers beforehand. So it could not be more timely, could it, to be discussing the importance of sport and today football in bringing communities together in shared enjoyment and support of a team. And so I'm delighted to propose this motion. As Lord Mayor of Oxford in 2010, I have really happy memories of going to Wembley to watch Oxford United beating York City and returning to League Two. On their victorious return to Oxford, they paraded through the city in an open-top bus and then to a reception at the town hall. And only in May this year, the streets of Oxford were filled yet again with joyful fans cheering their team after their win against Bolton Wanderers. And through Oxford United in the community, the club does a huge range of valuable work across Oxfordshire. This extends from youth engagement to tackling loneliness in older people and raising vast amounts of money for charity. So while Oxford United was in fact founded back in Headington in 1893 and has its roots in the city, its supporters are spread widely across the county. And when I said that I would move this motion, I've received emails from across the county, from places like Bicester, from fans who want to urge support of this motion. It is Oxfordshire's only professional football team. So for Oxford United to flourish and for the whole county to benefit from its success, it needs to have a decent stadium. Sadly, it has not been well served during its time at the Cassan. As the speaker said earlier, it only has 3 stands rather than 4. The 4th stand was never built despite being promised. Previous attempts by Oxford United to buy the Cassan have failed. Instead, it has had to pay disproportionately high rental costs. In comparison, Cheltenham Town, which has a stadium of similar capacity, pays 18 times less in rental than Oxford United does. And particularly shocking is the Cassan's very poor facilities for women at a time when women's football is growing rapidly. So while a decision on the new stadium at the Triangle has been postponed until early next year, now is the time for all of us across the political divide to come together and to support our local team, our county team. A new stadium with modern facilities linked to Oxford Parkway Station offers a new, secure future. And I urge you all to support this motion.
Is the motion second? Councillor, do you wish to speak now or at the end of the debate?
Speak now. So 31,000 local fans cheered on the Yellows to victory over Bolton Wanderers at Wembley in May this year. And 2 days later, the streets outside this very town hall were jam-packed again with local fans celebrating their promotion. Sadly, I was stuck in a licensing committee meeting, I think. There can be no doubt of both the uniqueness and importance of Oxford United to residents not only of Oxford City but to residents of all the neighbouring districts across Oxfordshire and beyond. A unique opportunity to locally watch high quality professional sport and to enjoy local rivalries with teams in Swindon, Wickham, Reading and beyond. But having a flourishing and successful local football team is not something that can be taken for granted. In fact, there are sadly too many examples around the country where having a local professional football team at all can no longer be taken for granted. Whoever the actual owners are, like all football clubs, Oxford United really belongs to its fans, to our and our neighbouring districts' local communities. Despite its recent success on the playing field, Oxford United is facing an extremely uncertain future. It does not own its own ground. The lease it holds there runs out in 2026, and if it cannot find a new stadium, it will become homeless. Its current ground is owned by a previous owner who fans feel extremely let down by and who they doubt ever intended to honour the commitments he made when taking over the club. Without ownership of its own stadium, Oxford United's future is utterly uncertain. The only option now for Oxford United is to build their new stadium at the triangle between Oxford and Kiddington. There is no longer another option. All change causes anxiety, all change comes with challenges to be overcome. In my own ward in Northfield Brook, there are many fans that will now have a more difficult and longer journey to get home to home games. There are local businesses that will suffer from loss of matchday trade, but I have no doubt that communities in Northfield Brook and in neighbouring Blackburn, Leeds and Littlemore are committed to Oxford United's move. Their commitment to our local football team surviving, their commitment to the wider Oxfordshire community goes well beyond any inconvenience caused to themselves. It is vitally important, therefore, not only this council, but all of our neighbouring councils, including Oxfordshire County, Cherwell District, Killington Parish and Gosford and Waterton Parish, and all the councillors of every political party and none elected to each of those councils come together to support Oxford United's move and to approach every concern and challenge related to it with a positive can-do attitude, an attitude of what can be speedily done to overcome challenges, and with an absolute commitment to this new stadium and home for Oxford United. I ask here for unanimous support for this motion, unanimous support for Oxford United, a commitment to our local football team, but also as members of different political parties, unanimous support from your parties, whichever council they sit on. We cannot have a situation of support here and then obstruction elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. I have three councillors that we want to speak. I don't know if you're now, okay. What I ask is, if they want to speak, raise your hands. I need to say, okay, I see, give me the share. Okay. Yes. So, yes, I see. I think I have. Yes, I see. Councillor Ed Tanner.
Thanks very much, Lord Mayor. Deputy Lord Mayor. A couple of quick reflections before I segue into what I want to say. And I've got all sorts of Oxford United memories. I was lucky enough to go to the Manor Ground occasionally when I was relatively new to Oxford. Great experiences there, real sort of football stadium vibe. Two Kassam Stadium memories out of many stay in mind. One was a home match in the FA Cup against Reading, and I was on a bit of a diet at the time and had wrapped myself some carrots to enjoy at half time. And I was in a particularly bawdy bit with ex-Councillor Richard Harbour, actually, of the Oxford Mail stand, and I thought, I cannot just open up my carrots and humiliate myself and eat those, so I went hungry. Another was, I was lucky enough to officiate in the Oxfordshire Senior Cup final, which used to be played at Kassam, more of that in a second. Good game, refereed by John Busby, local referee now in the Championship. And foul happened right in front of me. I flagged vigorously, and then he gave free kick, and I realised, of course, I flagged vigorously, completely the wrong direction. And the guy that had, poleaxed the opponent, was, anyway, whatever, completely wrong. Made a fool of myself. Everyone laughed, and the game moved on. Those fixtures aren't played there anymore. The County Cup finals tend now to happen at Oxford City Stadium or at Tame. I think that's a shame, and it does point to the fact that unfortunately Casam isn't usable by the local community in the way that you might hope a stadium for the elite football club in the county would be. It's incredible going down to Oxford City these days. Of course, it's where the Oxford United women's team plays as well. A real beacon of inclusive football, real hub, and to me that comes from the ethos of the club and the fact that we own the stadium at Oxford City, but we work in partnership with the club, and that's a really impressive thing. Oxford has an amazing landscape of grassroots football. People that go to Blackford Leys Park, Rose Hill Rec, Donington Rec, Cutterslow Park, you name it, on a Saturday or Sunday morning, there are thousands of youngsters playing, girls ever more often, boys as well. It's absolutely brilliant. How many of them has ever had the chance to play on the turf of the Casam, and does that compare with other grounds, other professional grounds elsewhere? I don't think it does. Oxford United in the community, my observation would be, are trying much harder, are doing more than they used to, and that's good, but they're constrained by the fact that they don't own their stadiums. Another important point is just around the income as well, of course, that if it's a whole, then it means that some of the more profitable activities that can happen at the stadium, which most clubs benefit from, competitor clubs as well, the club which owned its own stadium could benefit from too, rather than that being for private profit. And of course also we know about the shortage of housing in Oxford, and our local plan talks about future uses of the site. I would certainly hope that housing would be the way to go there if there was no stadium. But that's for the future. I hope we'll pass this. I really hope we'll vote for it unanimously. I think we need to do a recorded vote on this one, and I'll be moving that because I think it's important people's views are on record. But I also hope we avoid forked tongues, and I hope people don't say different things to different audiences in different places, because I think we owe it to people in Oxford, the fans of the club, but actually the whole community, to be straightforward and supportive on this issue.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Lubna Arshad.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. It's great to see you up there. Well, the reason I put my hand up is because obviously I'm born and bred here, and obviously since I've been very little, my older brothers and me, we very much support United, and we believe it's our community pride and identity, so to speak. It's a focal point for bringing residents together and celebrating that unity when we do go to the matches. I think it's going to give an economic boost, and I thank you, Councillor Mary, for bringing this motion. I think it's going to help local businesses create jobs and help that side of things. And I think it's going to attract a lot of talent. If we have this quality stadium, it won't only attract and retain the current talented players and the coaching staff, but it's going to be an incredible performance and success where lots of new individuals would then also go to. And we think about it, youth development, a decent stadium with new facilities, providing local young people, they're willing to travel. At the end of the day, we need this, and I think I would really highly recommend everybody to support the motion, because investing in a decent stadium for Oxford United is not just about the team, it's about enhancing the overall quality of life and opportunities for the entire community.
Thank you very much. The next is Councillor Joe Sanderson.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I want to say that I am not anti-football in any way, first of all. In fact, one of my earliest memories is a wonderful Leeds United watch that my father gave me. We were avid supporters, as he was Yorkshireman himself, and we watched every game. Also, I can sing the whole of the Chelsea team football song, and I have a Peter Bonetti boxed doll, the Jordan Pickford of his day, if anybody remembers him. And I also lived in a place where, when there were matches in Chelsea at Stamford Bridge when they played at home. The roads for at least a mile radiating out from the stadium were completely blocked. So I would say definitely thumbs up to Oxford United relocating, having a good location, and given the fantastic work that they do with young people and many vulnerable groups, and also having a place where women footballers can play and thrive. So I'm absolutely in support in that sense, as long as there are good public transport links in place and traffic and parking, so that local residents are not negatively affected, and that there is people have the ability to leave their nearby parts of Oxford and travel successfully on match days. Yeah, let's go for it.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Theodore Chap.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and can I say what an honour it is to deliver my maiden speech on an issue of such great cultural importance for the city. Many colleagues will recall being present on the steps of this building to witness the final stages of the Victory Parade on the 20th of May. I think Councillor Ottino and I were both stuck in licensing training, but I managed to catch a little bit of it, following the U's promotion to the Championship for the first time in a quarter of a century. We all witnessed the sea of yellow and navy, the thousands upon thousands of supporters of all backgrounds who came together to line the High in St Aldate's. Most of them from Oxford, of course, but many from further afield, from Bicester, from Didcot, from Kidlington, from Witney, not to mention all those who, having moved even further afield, returned to the city of their childhood to cheer on their victorious yellows. I point this out to show that a tremendous number of people in this city and county care very deeply about the fortunes of Oxford United, a football club that has suffered at various points in its history from poor management, shaky finances, and most recently from a severely imbalanced relationship with its landlord. I was heartened to learn that Oxford County Council and Oxford United had signed the heads of terms, and more recently the lease option and the community collaboration agreement for a new stadium at the Triangle. These are all developments which will safeguard the future of the club. A new stadium at the Triangle on land leased by the County Council will give Oxford United a long-term, sustainable home worthy of its recent promotion to the Championship. And although the fate of the relevant planning application will lie with Charles District Council later this year, I believe we owe it to the tens of thousands of supporters amongst our constituents in all parts of the city and to the future of football in Oxford to add our voices to those welcoming the progress that has been made. I found it perplexing that the Labour Group's motion as proposed referred to, I quote, Oxford United's proposals to build a stadium at Stratfield Break, end quote. Anyone paying even the slightest attention to the progress on this issue will know that Stratfield Break has been out of the picture for 2 years now, and that all current work is focused on the so-called Triangle site, as has been mentioned previously. Many members of the Labour Group are committed fans themselves, not least Councillors Chapman, Arshad, Ligo. So why the unforced error? I can't help but wonder whether the outdated motion originally submitted was the hasty product of a desire to grandstand, rather than being motivated by a genuine wish to make a meaningful, detailed and impactful contribution to the argument in favour of a stadium being built. That notwithstanding, and viewing, as I do, the prospect of a stadium being built at the Triangle as a historic opportunity for the club, for Oxford and for the county, I enthusiastically support this motion, and I hope that colleagues will be able to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will say the next speaker and the second next speaker is better for prepare, okay? The next speaker is Catherine Miles, and prepare and Raoul.
Thank you. I too was stuck in licensing, but I did get to touch the trophy afterwards, which is very exciting, and also for my family who are from West Country. My mailbox has received kind of a balance of responses from residents about the proposals on both sides of the fence, and so I do want to record residents' concerns expressed regarding potential congestion from travel to the site in the triangle, and also related to violence. I think these are operational issues though, and we're not the planning committee deciding the application, and these are the sorts of things that the planning application conditions can address. I do support the principle though of Oxford United's new stadium for a football club that is in a location that will enable biodiversity net gain on the site and is well located for sustainable travel options next to the Mine Station. And I really hope that this new stadium to replace the Kassam will secure the future of the club, as others have said, and create what I think can be seen as like 21st century facilities. What though really, for me is important is that this not only meets the needs of the professional athletes, but the public benefit element. From a gender equality perspective, I find it shocking what I hear that there have been restrictions on girls being able to play football in Kassam, and at a time when we're trying to get more women and girls into sports and football, having facilities through this creation of a replacement stadium is, for me, a gender equality issue in sport as well, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So first of all, I need to come out here and be honest. I'm not a football fan. I do not know football. This is very much evident to anybody witnessing me confusing the Championship with the Champions League. But you never know. Give it a few years, and Oxford United to make the Champions League. Because quite frankly, why not? So for whatever reason, I've always gravitated to sitting down sports. So I might not know football, but I do know sport. I do sport. I've run a sports club, and I know what sport means to people. Falcon Boat Club, the club I used to run before you know this, built its new boathouse a couple of years ago after literally decades of effort. I know exactly what it means to build a secure future for a sports club. So humanly, writing this, I realised there's actually a few similarities between Falcon and Oxford United. Falcon, as the rowing club, turned 150 years old a few years ago. Oxford United is 130. They both started in pubs, Falcon on Folly Bridge and Oxford United in Headington, and their colours are both yellow and blue. But no, a club is more than just a building or a stadium. It's the hundreds or thousands of people coming together to do a thing they enjoy doing. It's also the hundreds of little things people do to keep it running, usually without any recognition or thanks. It's the people coming along for the first time and loving it and then spending their whole life doing it. But it still needs a building, and it still needs a stadium, and it still needs a home to be able to do that. Oxford United deserves a secure home in this city, and it currently does not have that. This administration does back this club and will continue to. When Oxford United got promoted to the Championship, not the Champions League, not yet, we made sure there was going to be a public parade in the city. Some of the opposite who made that genuinely iconic parade happen here in this room, and I'm still grateful for their heroic efforts on that. A lot of cities would not have done that and genuinely do not host parades, but we did. Oxford United is important to a lot of people in this city, and so it is important to us. That goes beyond just celebrating the good times though. It needs a new home, a home that it controls and owns, and for that reason I back the new stadium. Thank you very much.
Okay, then the next speaker is Councillor Nigel Chapman.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm an unabashed Hughes fan. I've been a season ticket holder for 20 years. I've spent more hours on the South Sound Upper than I can possibly count. And I've really enjoyed most of it, and not all of it. We've had some dark times. Been down in the conference. I can remember entertaining the likes of Gateshead. Jolly good that was, and Everfleet United. But this year I look forward to the heady heights of Birmingham City and Hull City and Luton and Burnley. And that's to make the point that football is a fragile business. And in some ways, the higher you go, the more dangerous it is. Because you have to attract and retain an excellent squad in order to compete in the Championship. And that's why it's important that this club is on a secure footing, financially for the long term. As Ed made the point, if you don't own your own stadium, then frankly a load of revenue that you should be getting, which other clubs get from food and drink sales, advertising, conferences and special events, is actually ruled out. And the landlord, as in most situations where there's a landlord, holds all the cards. And the only assets you as a club have are the players, nothing else, nothing tangible. on which to borrow in the future. The second thing I want to say is that football is about all the things we said tonight. It's about community, it's about pride, it's about self-esteem, it's about locality. Somebody wants to challenge Bill Shankly about football, saying it didn't really matter very much. It wasn't about life and death, and he said rather dryly, no, it's more important than that. And actually that captures for me the sense of passion and commitment that football fans have. And when I go to the Kassam or any football stadium, I think I put my differences behind me. And I gather together with people of a common cause to support my local team and to want them to do well. And they'll never do as well as they can without owning their own stadium. That's the truth. That's why we need to back this motion and put all pressure we can to make it happen. I do understand people's concerns about traffic, buses, not enough transport links and all that. But you just have to think of the greater good. The greater good here is about a sense of cohesion, community, pride, love for your locality where you live and the things that you really care about. You can't really put a price on that. Those things are the heart of a great community. And for me, that's why we need to get ourselves fully 100% behind this planning application, put our shoulder to the wheel and make sure that the youth are not playing in some benighted place, sharing some ground with Wickham or Reading in the years ahead, or worse, carrying on frankly in the Kassam Stadium, which is some sort of concrete mausoleum which is falling down. I mean, God, if you go to the gentlemen's toilets in the Kassam Stadium, it's not a happy place, I can tell you. It's really, really, really in a bad place. The whole ground is actually literally falling down. Therefore, for all those reasons, I urge us to support this motion tonight. Football needs to come home, it needs a home in Oxford. Let's support this motion.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Emily Keir.
Hello, I share many of the sentiments expressed tonight. My family, like Councillor Chapman, the season ticket holders, huge supporters of Oxford United, and it clearly needs a new home. I have a serious concern about process, however. It concerns me, firstly, that Strackville break was repeatedly mentioned in all of the documents. There was no mention of the triangle, and it's only just now that we've been updated as to the fact that this motion is not actually about Strackville Blake, it is in fact about the triangle. I think that's a serious oversight in something as important as this. It really is. Secondly, this is primarily a matter for Cherwell District Council Planning, the County Council, and with as consultees, the Kidlington Parish Council. So I'm not sure of the appropriateness of us making a decision about something so serious that has firstly been presented erroneously and secondly is not within our jurisdiction. So hugely support the concept, the thoughts, the idea that we need a new stadium for Oxford United, which is, as I say, like many of you, a huge deal to many in my family. I am extremely concerned about the process.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Osnia Jafari Marbini.
Thank you. My then 6-year-old's first ever football match was watching the Yellows, and we were lucky enough to go to Wembley, and I really struggled to get him to take off his t-shirt for a long time after that. So he really loves it, and it is really, really nice to see Oxford United in the community really try and get out there and teach young children and the young in our city, not just to play football, but something that everyone could learn from, and our best colleagues in wherever sphere we're from really hold dear, and that is the ability to be a team player for the greater good, and a quality that many could learn from. And we will be supporting this motion, though the residents in my ward of North Brook will miss the Kassam Stadium, but everyone's really committed to Oxford United and will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Chris Smolton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll be glad to support this motion today. I agree with my colleagues at the County Council who gave the approval in principle for the leasing of the Triangle site that was made last September. Naturally, there are details to be sorted out, and equally naturally, there is some tension in how that resolution happens. Stadium unavoidably has externalities. They affect the local residents, mainly traffic related, and it's quite right that the club is going to push for the resolution to that is best for it, and that's going to have a certain amount of tension involved with it. It is also quite right that it's local councillors who will go out to bat for their local residents in that respect, and I'm confident that the two groups will get together and form a constructive and useful resolution there. Ultimately, the Independent Cherwell Planning Committee will be the arbiter of how much mitigation there is sufficient, and I look forward to a constructive resolution allowing the club to improve its circumstances whilst local impact is minimised. I must say I'm a little bit surprised to hear Councillor Turner level the threat of a recorded vote, since we all seem to be in violent agreement. Do we really need such naked political gamesmanship? I'm not a big football guy either, but even I know it's a little bit of a surprise when you get tackled by the referee. Nonetheless, I look forward to constructive progress, a good solution for the club, a good solution for the local community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Councillor Susan Brown.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm old enough and ugly enough to actually remember far back as Oxford winning the Milk Cup when I was growing up in Oxford. You know, I've got a long history of supporting Oxford United and also many happy memories, some of them less happy than others, of standing at the Manor Ground at the London Road End as well as sort of more recent experiences at the Casam Stadium. And also, the late great Joe Beecham was a very well-loved constituent of mine, I think, as I said when Oxford United were here, you know, I'm sure that his family would be really proud of the fact that Oxford United did so well this year. And so in his memory as well, I think it's really important that Oxford United have a sound future. And I'm a bit surprised to hear Councillor Kerr suggest that this isn't a matter for this chamber. We've discussed all sorts of foreign policy issues in this chamber and have expressed views on them, and you know, with some justification, because these are important issues for many people in our city. But this is very much an issue for people in our city. It's our club, and it's something which is, you know, if this proposed stadium goes ahead, it's just outside the boundaries of our city. It's about as close as you can get, and you know, not quite be in our city. So I think it's pretty important that we do have a view expressed by this council chamber on this issue. We have been doing our best to support the club for years, both through their existing arrangements, but also in terms of their future. And so I commend the motion to people. I hope everyone in this chamber can support it. I think it would be a great shame if that was not the case.
Thank you very much. I think it was a very passionate debate of our club. I think I don't have no more speakers. This means I think Councillor Clarkson, would you like to summarize?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Yes, I think, you know, it's quite clear across the chamber that whatever people's slight reservations might be, we really want to see Oxford United do well, and we want their future to be secure in a new stadium, which offers a lot of improvements, both in terms of ease of getting there by more sustainable methods of transport and through biodiversity. So I would reiterate, it is an issue for the whole city, it's for the whole county, and please support this motion.
Thank you very much. I will now take a vote on the motion. Sorry.
I'd like, if there are 9 colleagues, I think, who would join me to move a recorded vote. Not out of anything other than I think there's a lot of public interest in this, and none of us would like to place our views on record.
Okay. We need a support of 10 councillors who support that. Okay.
So, councillors, we are going to have a recorded vote. What we will do is, rather than going around the room, we'll ask you to raise your hands in favour, against, or abstention. I will then tell you to put your hand down when we've recorded your vote. Unless you prefer that we vote around the room.
Are there any, now, we'll now take the votes of the motion. Please can I ask the members keep their hands and I think we are doing that and she recorded, okay. Those in favour of the motion?
Actually, a point of clarity, could we have the motion read to us, please?
No, we're taking a vote. Councillor Alden, you can put down your hand. Councillor Miles, you can put down your hand. Councillor Smith, you can put down your hand. Councillor Jupp, you can put down your hand. Councillor Smayton, you can put down your hand. Councillor Foulweather, Councillor Tafari and Beanie, Councillor Coyne, Councillor Henwood, you can put down your hand. Councillor Stairs, you can put down your hand. Councillor Diggins, you can put down your hand. Councillor Patino, you can put down your hand. Councillor Clarkson, Councillor Arshad, Councillor Smith, Councillor Turner, Councillor Upton, Councillor Munkonge, Councillor Brown, Councillor Railton, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Hollingworth, Councillor Waite, Councillor Russell, and Councillor Bowman. And finally, but not my name is least, Councillor Fry and Councillor Fry. Okay.
Now, does we are voting against now. Does against and any abstentions?
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you. The motion has been carried. Now, the next motion, we still have time. The next motion, you want to, okay.
If I can just clarify that at the moment we've got 23 minutes for the next motion. For the proposer, the seconder and the right to reply, that is 9 minutes. So we will need to manage the number of speakers in the remainder unless councillors wish to extend the meeting.
Okay. The next motion is 13P. Motion of no confidence in Thames Water and develop of an Oxford City River Action Plan. I will ask Councillor Joe Sandelson, could you please move your motion?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. This council has no confidence in the water company Thames Water, which provides services to households in Oxford. For too long now, water company bosses have been able to get away with paying themselves millions of pounds in bonuses while dumping millions of tonnes of raw sewage into the River Thames and underinvesting in infrastructure. Despite increasing public scrutiny and despair, dividends continue to be paid out to investors that form part of the company's complex corporate structure. At the same time, the company has been reneging on its commitments to invest in infrastructure investments. The consequences are many. Wildlife is disappearing and rivers are unfit to swim in. For example, Oxford has a long tradition of wild swimming in the River Thames at Port Meadow. The city celebrated when Wolvercote Millstream received designated bathing water status in 2022. But the level of pollution caused by sewage means the bathing site is currently classified as poor, and bathing is not advised. Thames Water is on the brink of collapse and has a mountain of debt estimated at £18 billion, which may be passed on to taxpayers if the company were to be nationalised. Furthermore, the current regulator, Ofwat, has demonstrated it is too weak to stand up to Thames Water. The sewage scandal must end to protect the River Thames. In response, this council believes that water companies, including Thames Water, should be put into special administration and transformed into public benefit companies. And Ofwat should be replaced with a tough new regulator with new powers to prevent sewage dumps. At a local level, in response to the river water emergency, the City Council can demonstrate its commitment to support the restoration of river health by signing up to the local Charter for Rivers. This sets out steps that councils can take to use their powers to restore our rivers to health at a local level. To this end, firstly, this council resolves that it has no confidence in Thames Water and requests the council leader writes to the Secretary of State of His Majesty's Government with responsibility for water companies to call to replace Ofwat with a tough new regulator with new powers to prevent sewage dumps and place Thames Water into special administration to ensure the company's debt does not fall on the government. And secondly, that this council requests that the council leader commissions a cabinet report with an analysis of current actions and gaps in line with the local river charter and recommendations for developing an Oxford City River Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the motion second? Councillor Miles, do you wish to speak now or at the end of the debate? You can speak now, okay?
So the residents of Oxford have no confidence in Thames Water. It's been a priority issue within their electorate on the doorstep regardless of political affiliation. Last year, Thames Water discharged 72 billion litres of sewage into the River Thames, and in 2023 there was also a 160% increase in the amount of sewage discharged. Nationally, the Lib Dems, we had water pollution as a key priority and addressing this in our general election manifesto, and that really resonated with the residents across Oxfordshire, delivering 5 Lib Dem MPs across the county. The Lib Dems have called to transform England's water companies into public benefit companies, which is subtly different from nationalising them. But it's about ensuring that they work in the interest of the public and the environment and not for the shareholders. It's about reforming the way water companies operate rather than bailing them out with taxpayers' money. There are public benefit business models that exist in other sectors that do this, and we need this in the water sector too. Indeed, we pride ourselves in Oxford on our Oxford model with ODS and Oxplace and others. Now, Councillor Sanderson has mentioned what this motion is asking for around the no confidence in Thames Water and also the abolition of Ofwat and putting Thames Water into special administration in the short term. It's not about stating what model it's to adopt in the medium term, it's about putting it into special administration now. This is one element of what we're calling for, but we're also calling for this local river charter and Oxford City River Action Plan. At the Oxfordshire Clean Rivers debate, which was there was a cross-party group of us who were asked to commit to something on river pollution to address this challenge in the city, and this is what this motion is doing today. There was a strength of feeling that actions can be taken at the local level by city councils, not just here in Oxford, but elsewhere,
to address the crisis of pollution in our rivers. And this motion acknowledges this, that there are actions that we may be able to take to restore the health of our beloved Thames. This motion is delivering on our commitment to the people who attended that debate in the Town Hall in April. So residents are calling for us to take action in line with this local river charter, and what we hope through putting this forward as an action is that there can be an analysis of what they're asking for and what we're already doing as City Council, areas where we can close existing gaps. But I think we need to join together, united in our goal of cleaning up the sewage-filled rivers, and there's really an opportunity for us to commission this Cabinet report and see what we're already doing to improve the river health of the Thames in the city, in areas that are under the scope and control of our council. And I hope that you will be supporting the motion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I understand that there have been changes to the published amendments. I would like to ask the monitor officer to explain.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. 2 amendments were proposed and are on the agenda, but my understanding is that the one from Labour and the one from the Greens have now been combined, and they will be presented as one. Proposed by Councillor Attino, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. The Lib Dem, Labour and Green leaders have agreed that there will be no copies for their groups, and therefore we'll just distribute copies of the proposed amendment to the remaining groups at the back of the room.
Councillor Attino, can you please move your amendment?
Yeah, well, water that falls from the sky as rain, water that flows down our rivers and into the pipes that carry it into and away from our homes and businesses should belong to no business to make profit from. It should belong to all of us, public ownership. And those that manage it and the wastewater we all create should be directly accountable to us, the public, through democratic processes. Debts created by the shareholders whilst making profit from our natural resources are debts that those very shareholders are responsible for. Wherever these debts come from, risky loans, from goods and services not paid from fines or commitments around maintenance not completed, they are for those shareholders to pay for. The behaviour of Thames Water as a private corporation described in this motion is, in my mind, criminal behaviour. Privatisation of so many of our public utilities has been a Thatcherite failure. No improvement, but much financial profit made. We are clear Thames Water needs to be brought back into public ownership. It needs to be clearly accountable to and the responsibility of us, the public. No one but us, the public, should own it.
Deputy Lord Mayor, a point of order. When I agreed not to see a written version of the amendment, I was kind of expecting it to be read out. Could we please hear what the amendment is?
People are looking towards me, so I can maybe just clarify. It's the Green Amendment added into the Labour Amendment, so you've got the text of both amendments already in your agenda pack. It's just those 2 amendments together. The Green Amendment only added the resolve section.
Yeah, the monitor will read.
I withdraw my request. Councillor Jarvis's explanation is perfectly clear. It is the Green Amendment plus the Labour Amendment. It's the same text shown right at the bottom, and if both things are accepted, both amendments are accepted.
Okay. I can ask is the amendment second? Councillor Jarvis, do you wish to speak now or at the end of the debate?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I shall speak now. So everyone in this chamber can no doubt agree that our water system is an absolute mess. The question at the heart of this amendment, though, is whether we think that that mess is caused by bad regulation of private firms and the structure that they have, or whether that mess is caused by the whole system of privatisation. Now, in January 2023, members from all sides of this chamber took part in a vote on this very question, and we agreed that the stated position of this council was that Thames Water and the other water companies should be taken back into public ownership where they belong. Now, I'm not convinced that much has changed since then in terms of the performance of Thames Water, or indeed the performance of the other water companies. We still have the pollution of our waterways, we still have the dividend payments, we still have the leaks in the system. In fact, I think so little has changed that I've dug out the words that I said then, and I'm going to say them again because I think they apply just as equally now as they did then. So 35 years of water, it's gone up to now, 35 years of water privatisation has been 35 years of disaster. This has been shown to be true time and time again. It's been shown in the more than £70 billion the private water companies have siphoned off to shareholders. It's been shown in the 3 billion litres of water that leak out of our aching infrastructure every single day. It's been shown in the more than 2 million hours a year that private water companies discharge sewage into our rivers and seas. That's what you get when you run a basic service, not in the public interest, but for private profit. Now, while the whole tree of water privatisation is undoubtedly rotten, Thames Water is amongst the worst of the apples. It is Thames Water that in 2022 was found to let 635 million litres of water out of the system every day. It's Thames Water's broken infrastructure that led to underpasses in Oxford being flooded, and it's Thames Water that has been fined over £32 million for water pollution. I think those words are as relevant today as now, and so I'm urging people to support this amendment. Now, one final thing before I finish is just to say, on the question of public ownership, this isn't a radical proposition, it's not a pipe dream, this is the norm across the world. Only England and Wales are the only two countries in the entire globe that has fully privatised their water and sewage system. We're an outlier, it's a farce, and frankly, we deserve better. Now, we don't have to look across the globe in order to see what public ownership can deliver when it comes to our water system. We only have to look a few hundred miles north to Scotland, where Scottish Water, which was never privatised, is outperforming the English water companies, and indeed Welsh Water, which seems to be the model that the Liberal Democrat group are proposing that we go down as well. So I'd urge everyone to support this motion and to support bringing our water back into public ownership where it belongs, as we did just 18 months ago.
Councillor Sansel, do you wish to accept the combined amendment? Okay, no. Okay. I don't know if anyone wants to speak. I think you, Councillor, now is open the discussions of amendment motion. I have at the moment one speaker to speak, and Councillor Alex Hollingworth.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I was all geared up to second Councillor Rotino, who was coming out being usurped. So an abbreviated version of those remarks. I'm going to quote from an article published a couple of months ago, which finished, the case of Thames Water must be used to draw a line in the sand. It is an opportunity to show that you cannot pay out £7 billion in dividends, build a debt mountain of over 15 billion, fail to build a single new reservoir, release sewage for millions of hours, and be allowed to stay in post. And I thought that was about a brief summary of why the current model has failed. The difference here, obviously, I would support the motion. If it's unamended, I obviously think the amendment makes it better. The issue is basically what's the means by bringing it back into public ownership and whether it's accountable or not. The model, I think, that's been proposed by the original motion is very similar to what happened to Railtrack, that previously failed piece of privatisation nonsense, where Stephen Byers, that scion of New Labour, the least radical politician, I think, in the New Labour government, nationalised it by stealth. He told everyone it was a company, it's not nationalisation. Furious Tories said it is nationalisation, then a few years later it emerged indeed it was nationalisation, and quite right too. So do we want to be upfront about it? Yes, we do. Or do we want to do it by stealth? Well, it's slightly less good, but it will do. So I'd like to urge Council to improve the existing excellent motion by making it even better by adding the amendment.
Okay. As you can see, given the time left, what is 5 minutes, I propose we extend the meeting past 9 p.m. by 20 minutes. If the members agree, it's okay. It's only to, to suspend the standing orders to allow the item to continue and to conclusions in the time, I think is a fair point, okay? What? Time is okay. 10 minutes for us is okay? 10 minutes. Everybody agree? Who is the second? You are the second? And the first? Okay.
If there was no one shown to be objecting to some form of words that aligns with the original motion or with the amended motion as such, I really don't see why we need to go on with one more speaker and then someone else.
The problem is we have 3 minutes. If we extend 10 minutes, we can finish in 3 minutes. But we have the wait a minute, Councillor, want to speak or you?
I'd like to move that the question be put.
You are speaking about the amendment motion.
The amendment followed by the substantive motion.
We will vote the amendment combined motion, okay? Who is in favour of the amendment?
This is the vote on the amendment.
Now, those against? Combined amendment, yes. And those abstains? The amendment carry. Okay, now we have 2 minutes to discuss and vote the amendment motion, substantial motion.
Can I propose that the amendment, that the motion be put, so we can just
okay.
vote?
We need a second, yes? Okay. Who is the second? Okay, we have, good. Those in favour of the amendment substantial motion? Amended motion. Okay. Sorry. Thank you very much. We finished the meeting, okay? Thank you.
Well done, Deputy.
And next time we will be our Lord Mayor. I hope.